What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto and Malia? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. The sounds of gentle tapping on water could be heard as a figure walked across the surface of the water. The full moon overhead illuminated the cloak he was wearing and his blue eyes that glowed in the darkness, as well as his blonde hair that took a silver tint in the moonlight. As he walked, the sounds of howling and pained cries reached his ears. There was a fight going on, and someone was losing. Changing the direction of his walk, his thoughts turned inward. How long has it been, Kurama? His young, masculine voice questioned to the air. He was rewarded by a rumbling sound in his mind followed by a booming voice. Since you walked the ocean, been a pest, or stopped everything to be a superhero? Because, Kurama, a large demon fox started while our hero's sweat dropped at his words. Ah, come on, buddy? I thought you'd be happy to roam the world with me. Get to help people, we get to see this whole new world, plus you aren't being hunted anymore. He complained to the demon residing in his stomach, hoping Kurama would see his side to this. I just can't believe I got conned into going with you. Kurama shook his head before Naruto smiled and made a hand sign. Funny you should say that, but wasn't it you who offered to go with me after the last battle with Madara? Naruto questioned. He could hear Kurama stuttering curses within him as he snickered, and with a gust of wind and leaves, he disappeared. Beacon Hills, huh? His voice echoed into the night. In the woods a group could be seen surrounding two teenagers. The first to speak was a girl with blonde hair and golden slitted eyes that highlighted her features. Her name was Erica. She and her packmate Boyd were surrounded by alphas, a pack of alphas. They originally planned to leave Beacon Hills in search of a new pack, a new home. Gerard and his hunters were killing other wolves left and right. She thought she had heard another pack one night, and when Boyd confirmed it they decided it was best to live somewhere else. Beacon Hills wasn't safe anymore. Derek wasn't safe. Maybe this new pack would be able to protect them. So they ran, as Derek called it. They continued running through the woods to find the pack they heard. Well, they managed to find the pack, however the pack wasn't exactly friendly. Why? Erica questioned while she and Boyd panted, their golden eyes looking for a way out. Both looking worse for wear. Her question was met chuckles from the group as red eyes stared locked onto them like prey. This pack was unnatural to say the least. Normally packs had an alpha and several betas. The difference was found in the eyes. Betas and omegas, or lone wolves, could be found with either a smoldering golden or cold blue eye. All betas and omegas start out with golden eyes, but betas and omegas could only get blue eyes if they murdered an innocent. The strongest werewolf, the leaders, were alphas. Blazing red eyes marked them. The only problem here was that all 5 of the werewolves surrounding them had red eyes. They were all alphas, an alpha pack? Derek never told them something like this could happen. She and Boyd couldn't handle 1 alpha, much less 5. A cry of pain broke her train of thought as she looked over only to see Boyd fall to his knee trying to hold back one of the alphas, a balding man, with tall bulky build. His red eyes helped distinguish his hard face, pulled into a devilish grin. While only a little bigger than Boyd, he was a grown man, and being an alpha made him leaps and bounds ahead of his adversary. He had a sadistic grin on his face as he kneed Boyd in the face and punched him, launching Boyd back towards her. Standing back up, Boyd spat the blood out of his mouth and snarled at the alpha, ready for round 2. Cuts littered his shirt, dark skin underneath bloodied and bruised but slowly healing. That's all you got? He questioned. My mama hit harder, bitch. Boyd growled while the alpha that was just smiling snarled at the insult. It was a front. Boyd was a strong kid, the strongest out of Derek's betas, but he was running on fumes and so was she. The alpha she had been fighting didn't even look slightly winded, just amused. It really pissed her off. She'd been fighting her for as long as Boyd had with the jolly red-eyed jackass, and she didn't even get a scratch on her opponent. Boyd and the alpha he'd been fighting were going back and forth. Meanwhile, Erica was pushing her healing to the brink, trying to keep up, and still falling short. She wanted to rush over and help Boyd, but the minute she moved she knew the werebitch would be on her. Come on Boyd, we got this, Erica said, before a laugh barked out, coming from the one who seemed to run the group. It was a cold, sharp laughing, like an amused lion, playing with a mouse before eating it. I think that's quite enough, you too, don't you think? The man behind the 2 alphas said, finish it. He spoke in a calm, authoritative tone. He hadn't moved from his spot since the fight began. his brown jacket moving slightly in the wind, and his neatly kept hair was parted on the side. He kept a peaceful look about himself, like he wasn't watching two teenagers fight for their lives. He stood completely still with a cane in his hand and glasses over his face. Was he blind? Before Erica could think more on this, she had to lean back to avoid the swipe that would have taken her face off. Swinging her leg, Erica felt nothing but air as the alpha jumped over the kick she sent. Stomping her feet, the female alpha kicked Erica in the chest, bouncing her body off the ground and landing on her, the alpha's clawed toes just underneath Erica's chin. "Ah, ah, ah," the lady said while wagging her clawed finger at Erica. "We wouldn't want an accident," she said while applying a little pressure, cutting off air and cutting Erica's chin. "Goo," Erica managed to wheeze. "Erica," Boyd yelled, rushing to help her, only to be stopped short. His turning his back to run towards her left him open to the alpha he was fighting. A slash to his spine left him crumbling to the floor, temporarily paralyzing him. "Ara," Boyd yelled while the bald alpha he had been fighting stepped on his wound. Raising his hand he prepared the final strike. "There," the leader said, "now that that's finished, shall we?" Before he could finish the sentence, a gust of wind blew, like a tornado appeared before the group. The two alphas that they'd been fighting found themselves in the air, flying off their prey and onto their respective backs. "URG," the alpha Boyd had been fighting groaned while slowly getting up. His voice showing nothing but agitation. "What the hell was that?" "I do believe we have company," the boss said while looking up towards the trees. Sure enough, a cloaked figure stood on one of the branches. "Grr, who the hell are you?" the bulkiest alpha said, getting ready to tear this intruder apart. "Patience, Ennis," the leader said. "Perhaps our new friend will tell us why he is here and why he interfered willingly, before we kill him, of course." "Well, a hero does always wait till the last minute to make an entrance, Dat Bayo," the cloaked figure stated, his voice cheerful yet challenging, a clear difference from the alpha's leader with his cold and sharp tone. Removing his hood, wild, sun-kissed blonde hair blew in the breeze and cold azure eyes locked onto the group. During this time Erica had managed to make it to Boyd. She looked towards their savior and blushed a little. Wild hair, deep cerulean eyes that just shined with mischief, and 3 whisker marks on each cheek. His mouth was pulled into a wide grin, almost in the likeness of a fox kid. Cute, but there was something underneath it, like there seemed to be more power than what he let on. "And what would our hero's name be?" the leader asked. "Deucalion, we don't need to know, I'm gonna kill this punk anyway," the bulky alpha, now named Ennis, said to their leader, furious. "Ennis," Deucalion said in a slight warning tone. The effect was immediate. Ennis went silent, face stuck in a stone-rigid frame. "Hey, who said an old dog can't learn new tricks?" the stranger said. Ennis growled but said nothing. "But since you were so nice, I may as well introduce myself." With that said, the stranger leapt from the branch he was on, flipping before landing on his feet in between Boyd, Erica, and their would-be murderers. He grinned and jammed a thumb into his chest. "The name's Naruto Uzumaki, and I don't like bullies," Naruto said, grinning at the group of alphas. His words made Deucalion chuckle. This boy was different. He wasn't human, no doubt, yet he didn't look the least concerned. Perhaps he was stronger than he let on. That leap proved he wasn't like other people, or he just didn't know what he was up against. Either way, they were alphas, the strongest. They won't lose to him. "Ennis, I'll leave him to you," Deucalion said, and Ennis smirked at his luck. "Hey, you don't know what you're up against, do you, kid?" Ennis asked, chuckling while flexing his claws. "A man with a name sounding eerily similar to penis?" Naruto questioned almost innocently. His flippant questioning made Boyd bark out laughing before wincing in pain. Erica snorted, covering her mouth, and from the way the female alpha and the other two were biting their lips, they were holding in a laugh too. Deucalion kept his small serene smile while Ennis's eyes burned a crimson red, murderous rage flashing in his eyes as he charged. "I'm an alpha kid, the last one you want to screw with," he yelled while swiping, hoping to take this little punk's whole head off. Only instead of hitting his head, Ennis's punch sailed harmlessly by as Naruto leaned back. He lashed out with a kick, catching Ennis directly under his chin. The force of the blow sent Ennis skidding on his back. Both groups' eyes went wide, while Naruto lowered his leg and threw off his cloak. He was dressed in a black and orange jumpsuit, weird black sandals and an odd headband that held a symbol in the center. Slamming his fist into an open palm, Naruto grinned and pointed at Ennis, eyes brimming with confidence. Come on, let's run wild. A cold breeze swept through Beacon Hills at night. The moon high as the light came through the window of a seemingly abandoned warehouse. Water droplets falling steadily on the floor, and darkness was all that could be seen and heard as a beaten and bruised body was limply dragged across the concrete floor of a not-so-empty warehouse. The sounds of sparks could be heard as the body of one Isaac Leahy was seen bloodied, and from his chest movements, or lack thereof, he wasn't breathing. Come on, come one. A feminine voice chanted in a whisper while grabbing two jumper cables connected to a car battery. Using them like a makeshift defibrillator, she touched the positive and negative ends together, creating another spark before pushing them onto Isaac's chest. His body reacts instantaneously, jerking forward and jump-starting his heart. Gold glowing eyes snapped open as they searched for the source of the pain. Quiet. The same feminine voice whispered harshly while leaning in, and the gold eyes shifted to light green, trying to focus in on this figure in the dark. Catching a glimpse of mocha brown skin and piercing brown eyes. Sharp, commanding, yet anxiousness was peering just behind the orbs. Her full lips pulled into a light frown as she helped Isaac up with a grunt. Hey! A harsh whisper raided his ears as he was pulled to his feet. Stay with me, okay? Almost there. Taking in his environment bit by bit, Isaac looked around. Everything was blurry. He knew it was night time. They were headed towards a bike. Before he could think more, a sharp pain at the back of his neck made him stumble. Feeling the area, he pulled his hand back to see it coated in blood. My neck, Isaac mumbled while his head rocked back and forth. He was being dragged out by the girl basically. From their claws, it's how they share memories. She informed him, not breaking stride. Why was she helping him? How did she find him? Why was he here? Wait, their claws. Who is they? But I don't remember anything, he said in slight panic. A chunk of his memory was missing after all. Also, how they steal them. She said, finally reaching her bike, a pitch-black motorcycle. Listen to me. No matter what happens, hold on, okay? She warned, this time not as slurred as focus came to Isaac Leahy, who was hunched on her back as she started her black motorcycle. Isaac nodded numbly as she took off with him holding on as tight as he could. Driving out, they found themselves in an alley. Not slowing down, the girl took more back alleys as she found herself on the main road. No other cars could be seen as the fog continued to blanket the city. Looking back, Isaac's hearing picked up the sound of approaching footsteps. Wait, what? I hear something, Isaac mumbled while trying to hold on to his savior. Something's coming, he warned weakly. A black silhouette could be seen slowly catching up to the two of them on the left side of the bike. As Isaac looked back, it was a young man around his age, with a short haircut and snarling face, complete with red eyes glowing with feral rage. The young man raised his clawed hand ready to strike. Faster! Isaac shouted, coming to consciousness, gripping her as best he could while she sped up, leaving the boy behind as he fell back, struggling to catch up. Only for Isaac to turn to the right and see the same boy appear and scratch the back end of the frame, causing them to lose balance and speed before his savior righted their course. Then another scratch on the left end made Isaac's suspicion grow before he looked back and confirmed it. There are two of them, he shouted to the girl as she looked in the rearview mirror to see two identical boys chasing after them. Isaac and his savior were then stuck between the two, slashing at them, hitting hard corners and narrowly avoiding their claws at every turn. Hitting a U-turn and stopping, she lifted the visor of her helmet to look at the two boys as they slowly walked towards them. Remember what I said before? She asked as Isaac faced her. Hold on tight? He questioned. Hold on tight, she affirmed before taking off. The bike whipped by the twins, barely dodging both slashes the teens made before riding off from the alley they were in. Finally, when it looked like they were getting away, Isaac couldn't hold on any longer. He finally slumped against her, blood loss and unhealed injuries outweighing the adrenaline. Isaac, Isaac, she shouted while struggling to keep him up and steer. With a shout, she drove them through the large window of a loft. Losing control, they both fell off the bike and rolled to a stop. Struggling to sit up, the girl pulled her helmet off while she panted. Looking towards the window they flew through, she saw the twins had made their way through the hole they made, standing before them like predators that just captured their prey. Slowly, the twins began walking towards them, crimson glowing eyes locked onto her and Isaac's prone form. As they approached, she started opening her bag looking for something to hold them off, anything. As they walked they started removing their jackets, in sync and without breaking stride before the brother on the right kneeled down and the one on the left proceeded to shove his hand through his twin's back. Isaac's savior looked on in horror as instead of blood pouring out like she expected, their bodies began to merge, becoming bigger, stronger. The two lean bodies becoming one, huge, hulking body. After their change completed there was a moment's pause. Then, he had charged, his steps echoing through the room as he grew closer. She managed to get the gun she was looking for and found her rounds as they were changing into this behemoth. Now, these were werewolves, and alphas no less, so regular shells would barely slow them down. So while they charged she cleared away the blurriness from her eyes, and found the right bullet before taking aim and firing. Bang! Zeet! With a series of twitches and jerks, the behemoth stopped cold, feeling the electricity travel through his body and fell backwards, splitting back into two teens, out cold. Taser shot. Over 20,000 volts, perfect for stunning wolves. Turning back she saw Isaac begin to sit up on his elbows looking at her groggily. "Didn't I tell you to hold on tight?" she admonished while panting. Isaac could only do one thing, pass out once again. This time, his would-be savior did as well. Up above, red eyes watched the exchange, seemingly dancing with both mirth and focus. The figure hopped down next to the twins with bare-clawed feet in tight leggings. Standing up, her black tank top did nothing to hide the muscles twitching beneath the two boys. A smirk found its way onto full lips. She began walking towards Isaac and his savior to bring them back, or kill them. Deucalion wouldn't mind. He already wanted the kid dead as it stood. What's one more body? Oh, what a pleasant surprise. A cheerful voice called out, echoing across the room, "Callie, is that you?" Instantly Callie was on guard. She knew that voice, how could she forget? That kid, no, that monster took one of them apart. She tried to focus on the voice, to pinpoint it, but it seemed to come from everywhere. "Boo!" a voice exclaimed behind her. Swinging back Callie tried to take his head off, only to be greeted with air. Growling in frustration she started to shift to get an edge on her opponent. She could hear for his heartbeat and, "Where are you looking?" his innocent question turned mocking behind her. Whipping around, Callie saw him standing in front of her prey a little away from her, guarding them no doubt. With a snarl Callie got ready for a fight. Sure, it was a high possibility she might lose, but she wasn't going to just get overtaken either. He was going to have to earn this ass-kicking. "Naruto, Uzumaki," Callie said while her claws extended, smirking slightly at him. "Hello Tilda, beautiful," came Naruto's reply. Kami, he almost missed sigh, ignorant of how that threw Callie off her game slightly. "Don't suppose you'd be interested in just leaving with your friends?" "Well, even if I wanted to, you've seen too much and so have they. So I had to kill you three," Callie said, matter-of-factly while smiling slightly. It didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well, as a favor for me could you not?" he asked. Callie almost balked at that. "This kid here, sorry, you're cute?" Callie started before slipping into a fighting stance, but not that cute. She finished flashing him a fanged smile. "Ah," Naruto started, pouting lightly. "Well, I guess it can't be helped. But you know what the worst part of this is?" he questioned. "What?" Callie said, walking slowly towards him trying to find the best way to take him down. "The police are already 45 seconds away and closing in," Naruto said, grinning. Callie paused, a look of sheer rage flashed in her eyes. This brat just played her. But it was a solid plan, she had to admit. "HMPH, fair enough, you win this round," she said, slowly backing up to pick up the two teens. "Tell your boss there is a better way," Naruto said, looking right into her eyes. Callie froze at those determined blue eyes. They just held her, like she had to believe what he was saying. Nodding lightly, Callie carted the boys off just before the sirens sounded outside the building. "Well, looks like you guys will be alright, but I should go. Can't let this world's police get me too," Naruto joked before disappearing in a yellow flash. Naruto appeared in a flash in a loft, letting out a sigh and sitting down on his couch. How did he get this place, you ask? Shadow clones, henge, and the devil's luck would suffice. He set up his false life, having shadow clones henge into his parents. They signed him up for school, which he was furious about. When he learned about it he thought he was done with that hellhole. When it came to money, the Ryo he carried with him actually was worth a lot in this world. having his shadow clone study up on this world and gain knowledge of trade, technology, and living arrangements. The wonders of gold, huh? Naruto chuckled, remembering the look on the realtor's face when he handed her the stack of dollars. Of course, gold coins would only take him so far, so against his better judgment, and with Kurama's constant insistence, he took a page out of his godfather's book, actually more like he took the whole book series and began reselling them as another form of income. Under his late sensei's henge, of course. Deciding he has had enough heroics for one day, Naruto went to bed. He did have school tomorrow, and who knows, he might have fun. Nobody thought he was a demon after all. That train of thought led him to a few nights ago, his introduction to this Alpha Pack. Naruto chuckled at the name in memory. Flashback. Let's run wild, Naruto shouted with his smirk in full effect. Needing no further encouragement, Ennis charged, intent on taking his head as a trophy. Erika and the grounded Boyd watched on. Erika, we should help him, Boyd suggested while trying to get up slowly. Wait, you want to go round two with the guys that just beat us senseless? Erika whispered harshly while holding his arm. Boyd wasn't even close to being healed. Erika didn't know what was even keeping him conscious at this rate. Maybe while the alphas were tearing Blondie apart they could make a break for it. Erika waited as Ennis charged, fully expecting the young man that helped them to die with one swipe. Only for Ennis to miss, again, and again, and again. Ennis snarled in rage as Naruto weaved in and out of his strikes, just out of reach with that damn grin plastered on his face. Will you just stand still? Ennis roared before Naruto jumped up to kick him in the chest, sending Ennis toppling away while Naruto used the momentum to backflip onto his feet in answer. But if I do that you might be able to hit me. The whiskered blonde whined childishly. Ennis was shaking at this point. That's the idea, he yelled while leaping forward to throw a powerful punch. The sound of impact rung throughout the forest as Ennis' fist did make contact. Only it hit Naruto's open palm, while his face shifted from his playful amused smirk to his full-blown grin. That was just weak, Naruto said as Ennis's eyes widened before all the air left his system. Why? A fist, buried deep in his solar plex was the answer. Hearing 6 of his ribs break under the force, Ennis let out a pained grunt as Naruto slowly pulled his fist out, before pushing back in, repeating this action 4 more times, much to Ennis's immense pain and Naruto's growing amusement. Stop fisting me, Ennis cried out in pain while waiting to get his breath back. Okay, Naruto grinned, ripping his fist out of Ennis's stomach with a sickening crunch. All at once Ennis began to shout only to be cut off as Naruto roundhouse kicked him in the temple and into a tree. Boyd, if he wasn't still slowly healing or too busy staring at this, would have laughed at the double entendre being used. Erika, however, could be heard laughing from their spot away from the fight. As Naruto dodged Ennis, he was slowly leading him away from their location, something the young betas became aware of slowly. Erika's laugh was cut short when she heard growling coming from the female alpha that just beat her shit silly. Looking over, however, she noticed the glare wasn't aimed towards them, but the blonde man who just kicked an alpha into a tree. Who's next? Naruto asked with a smirk as the alphas looked to him in shock. Well, 2 of shock, 1 of anger and another of vague interest. Twins, please pick up where Ennis left off. The leader spoke with his ever-present calm voice as the 2 twins stepped forward. We won't go down that easy, one said in warning, and we won't go easy on you either. The other finished while they both crouched, getting ready for a fight. That's fine by me, Datbeo. Naruto grinned, shifting to the side. The twins took off, both on either side of Naruto, hoping to catch him off guard as he could only defend from one side as the other approached, claws ready with a swipe ready to take his face or his heart. Only to be shocked at what happened next, as a grinning Naruto put his hands into a cross and shouted, Shadow Clone Jutsu, before smoke filled their vision and their swipes hit air. Then simultaneously both were hit, and sent rolling out of the smoke cloud. Using their claws to slow down, they looked at the dissipating smoke in shock. There was no way he could have dodged them both, and no way in hell he should have been able to hit one, much less both of them. As the smoke cleared, the twins could hear Naruto's voice. 2 on 1, huh? The smoke finally cleared and the twins' eyebrows shot to their hairline. 2, yes, 2 Narutos standing in front of them, looking ready as ever for confrontation. One of them crouched and the other copied, like mirror images. Erika and Boyd's jaws dropped at this. You're seeing this too, right? Boyd asked, only for Erika to nod dumbly in silent disbelief, despite what her eyes showed her. Well, one said, what are you waiting for? The other finished, that was all the encouragement they needed before charging. Doesn't matter if he can clone, breathe fire, or control the weather, they were going to kill him. They were sure of it when they engaged, only to see nothing changed as the Narutos simply yet gracefully avoided their claws, kicks, and anything else they threw at him. Naruto and his clone were dancing around their strikes, playing with them if the matching grins they had were any indications. Their frustration only grew, recklessly charging to get a hit, till they failed to notice the clones were slowly putting more distance between the two. Suddenly, an overhead swipe was met with a cross punch to the stomach of one twins, followed by another to the cheek. A palm strike to the cheek and a sweeping of his feet, finished with a hammer strike to his side, bouncing his face off the ground. Naruto, not letting up on this, grabbed his leg before spinning him around, smashing him through a tree. Aiden, the one twin shouted, seeing his brother being treated like a rag doll. Don't take your eyes off your opponent. A voice said behind him. As he turned to look back, he saw a hand close itself around his face. Lifting him up, Naruto watched him struggle before channeling lightning chakra through his arm, electrocuting the Alpha. The Alpha's struggles and screams slowly died down as the currents passed through him. Losing control of his body, he couldn't try prying Naruto's hands off anymore. Instead, he remained trapped in this deathlock, being electrocuted till blissful unconsciousness took him. What the hell is he? Erika asked while staring at the light show. Don't know, Boyd said while shifting to his knee, but I'm glad he's on our side. He finished while he saw the electricity arched across the Alf's body. As they watched, the betas felt hands on their shoulders, and turned in shock to see two more Narutos. Let's get you two out of here, okay? One of the Narutos said before they disappeared in a yellow flash. After his electrotherapy session, the second Alpha was thrown, only to collide with the newly released Aiden. Aiden's collision with his back had him cry out once more before they hit the ground with a thud. Aiden, coming to faster, tried to recover from his merry-go-round experience and noticed his brother's slightly smoking body through his spinning vision. Ethan, he shouted through his nausea, crawling over, trying to hold him up. Groaning, Ethan opened his eyes while twitching. Both brothers slowly got up, their injuries slowly healing as they stood up once again, stripping out of their shirts. Naruto watched patiently while his clone disappeared in a poof of smoke. Suddenly, they shifted their stance. Naruto was ready for anything. Aiden then shoved his hand into his twin's back, however instead of bleeding, they began to merge and slowly become one. Okay, almost anything. Naruto watched in morbid fascination as the two twins became a hulking werewolf that roared at Naruto with all the rage and bloodlust he could muster. Naruto simply looked on before grinning. Okay, I gotta admit, that is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I'm going to end this right now. Naruto said before a blue spiral orb began to form in his open palm. The merged twins charged at him, intent to end this freak, only to once again be shocked as Naruto appeared in front of him in a yellow flash. That blue ball he had looked a lot more threatening now that he got an up-close look at it. Rasengan, Naruto shouted, shoving the ball into the merged creature's stomach, drilling and tearing like the hurricane inside implied it would. The creature roared in pain as the ball drilled into its person before with surprising force. It blasted the creature back. As it flew back, the twins split, each sharing the damage and rolling to a stop on the ground. Leave now, and no one else has to get hurt, Naruto said, trying to end it peacefully. URG, Aiden groaned from his spot on the ground. Okay, no one has to get more hurt, Naruto amended after sweat dropping. Callie was in shock. She was one of Deucalion's heavy hitters, she liked to think, but even she knew it would take a lot of effort on her part to beat the twins, yet this guy did it in seconds. True, she mostly joined the pack out of some silly soft spot she had for Ennis, who was just now getting back up, albeit slowly. But those feelings began to fade as she realized he was only focused towards Deucalion's goal. Her heart ached slightly at that, but she had given up too much, done too much to regret that now. She had to keep moving forward. Ennis, slowly raising to his hands and knees, shook his head to wake up from his impromptu nap. He remembered getting ready to wreck this little twerp for interrupting them, and he got his ass kicked. By a kid? He remembered him dancing around his strikes, that enraging smirk and those hits that put him out. It only made him angrier by the second that this seemingly regular guy took him down like it was nothing. Looking over, Ennis spotted the twins, still unconscious with spiral scars on their abdomen. That scared him. The twins were not pushovers, he knew that much, but to take them both out? Who the hell is Naruto Uzumaki? What is he? How did he just take out 3 alphas like it was nothing? Deucalion, while slightly put off about the powers he just saw displayed by this kid, still believed himself to have the upper hand. Ennis was getting up. Callie was standing at the reed. As for himself? He was the demon wolf, the destroyer of worlds. He could crush this foolish human whenever he wanted. Let's show our friend here what makes wolves so dangerous. Deucalion stated. While they were all alphas, they were also a pack, meaning they were stronger when they worked together. Sending a signal to Callie and the recently almost recovered Ennis, they began to circle the blonde shinobi. Moving himself in a basic frog kata stance, ready for the attack, Naruto locked eyes with them, well, 2 of them, Deucalion being blind and all. Before finally, Ennis and Callie charged, going for the kill, claws sharpened to bite into flesh, only for Naruto to grab their wrists before they could connect. Callie wasn't as shocked seeing how he handled the twins and Ennis, but what came next did shock her, as he suddenly spun them and she heard an impact and Ennis shout in pain as she found herself face down in the dirt with her arms bound and a weight on her chest. Looking up, Callie saw Ennis with Deucalion's walking stick, spear in his back. Turning her eyes to her back, she saw Naruto sitting on her back, grinning at her. Always hate to hurt a pretty girl, Naruto stated, blue eyes peering at her as she tried to struggle. Stay here, gorgeous, I'll be back for you. He finished with a wink before flipping back, missing Callie's blush before she growled. Trying to get up, she noticed the wire that held her wrists and ankles together. Figuring all she had to do was flex to get out, she was mildly surprised when it held strong and kept her in place, only adding to her anger. The reason why Naruto flipped away. Deucalion swiping at him with his claws. My, you are full of surprises, aren't you, boy? Deucalion commented while reaching a clawed hand up to take off his glasses. Such a shame I have to put an end to this game. Hey, whatever you say, old man, Naruto said, adjusting his headband with his trademark grin before pointing at the alpha leader. No way I'm gonna lose. Do you know who I am? Deucalion smirked as Naruto gained a curious look. Other than the leader? Should I? Naruto asked in confusion. All present sweat dropped at his casual dismissal of the man, clearly the leader of this group of killers. The situation would have been much more serious if in one night this single blonde man hadn't decimated most of their force. However, during this exchange, Callie looked around to notice the betas they were here for were gone and there was no scent. Yes, you should. Deucalion answered simply, tiring of this child's insolence, the demon wolf. You would do well to remember that title, boy. Well, you can call me the #1 knuckle hyperactive knucklehead ninja. Naruto stated matter-of-factly. Using Ennis's body to block my spear, very wise, but even you know he won't stay down long. Deucalion said, ignoring Naruto's flippancy while his skin began to darken slowly. Well, normally that'd be true, but when you threw that spear, I made sure his spine took that blade, it's completely cut, so he may be out for a while longer. Naruto explained with a cheeky grin while Deucalion opened his eyes. Deucalion showed off his glowing red eyes with no pupils. Even the Sorella was a glowing crimson. His muscles and skin grew thicker, turning slightly green while a snarl left his mouth. Okay, that's different, Naruto confessed, slightly confused before grinning once more, but I still won't lose to you. Kurama, can I borrow a little chakra? Naruto questioned, hearing the tailed beast snort in his mind. What, you need my help for this mongrel? Kurama asked, not believing it for a second. Oh, definitely not, but not a lot, just a little. It'll be fun to mess with red eyes, won't it? Naruto amended, while Kurama smirked and chuckled at the offer. Brat, my power isn't a toy. Kurama began scolding before grinning, but I do enjoy a good laugh, and his face will probably be priceless. He admitted, sending a small amount of chakra to Naruto. Sweet, Naruto said as he felt the power flow. Sure, he could have taken it, after all he did fight Kurama for that power, but that's just not the way Naruto Uzumaki did things. Feeling Kurama's chakra change him, he slowly changed into the first pseudo-Jinchuriki stage. His hair turned even more wild, growing fangs and opening his eyes to show his own set of blazing red eyes. All the wolves present, except the unconscious twins, eyes widened in shock. What are you? You can't be an alpha. Callie shouted from her downed position. Oh this? Naruto gestured to his more feral appearance. This is to show you guys. You're not the most powerful beings in the world. There's always someone better. HMPH, Deucalion snorted arrogantly after getting over the shock. You're no wolf, and certainly no alpha. What chance do you have against me? Hey. Naruto smirked, moving into a stance. Normally I'd already have knocked that smirk off your face, but I got what I came for. But points for spotting that. Naruto pointed out, grinning. I figured, but what makes you think I will simply let you leave? Deucalion questioned, his voice many times deeper in his transformed state. As he questioned him, he noted Ennis's spine had healed and he had cut the wires holding Callie. The twins had finally recovered some of their strength and were up. Obviously still hurt, but they could still fight. Grinning, Deucalion moved in for the kill, slowly walking forward. This is it for you, boy. You will die here. Any last words? Deucalion offered before Naruto smirked and stood out of his fighting stance. Naruto looked Deucalion in the eye, seemingly unaware of the other wolves surrounding him. Taking it as his form of surrender, Deucalion smirked, thinking it was a waste for the boy to sacrifice himself for betas that would die anyways. Yay, I do, Naruto said as Deucalion charged forward, his speed far surpassing the other alphas as he charged with a punch aimed to take Naruto's face off. Closing in, Deucalion's fist was barely inches from Naruto's face before he heard Flying Thunder God. Then, a flash went off and Deucalion's fist hit only air, leaving a shockwave that destroyed a tree. Where is he? Deucalion questioned, looking around, his alphas looking on in shock. Where is he? Deucalion asked again, losing his cool while Callie finally answered. Gone, in a flash. She muttered in disbelief, never having seen a human do half of the things that boy just did. Find him. Deucalion orders, find all of them and bring them to me, or kill them. He shouted as the alphas mobilized, running out to find some way of tracking the betas and the blonde monster. Across town, in an abandoned building, Naruto appeared in a brilliant flash, behind the injured betas, his clones already working on healing them. He could hear Deucalion roaring from where he was too. Naruto smiled at that. Hey there, Naruto greeted, scaring the two teens. The fuck? Boyd whispered harshly before wincing slightly. Where did you come from? From the woods, obviously. Naruto said as if it was the simplest thing in the world. Growling slightly, Boyd calmed down enough to ask, wait, why help us? What do you get out of this? What are you talking about? Naruto asked, tilting his head. With his fox whiskers, Erika found it a little cute. They were ganging up on and beating the stuffing out of you when I walked by. I just don't like bullies. Remember the cute statement? Take it back. Erika wasn't exactly loving this guy. We had them right where we wanted them. Erika defended their actions. Last time I checked, someone standing over you with their foot on your neck isn't exactly screaming. Got it covered. Naruto pointed out. Growling, Erika was tempted to give him a piece of her mind before Boyd's hand on her shoulder made her realize her mistake. You're right, I'm sorry, thank you for saving us. She admitted before Naruto put his hand on her head. Hey, don't worry about it, you guys just stay here and heal. It was no problem, he said with a grin while Erika blushed at him. After healing them and letting them rest in spare rooms he had, Naruto and his shadow clones began the process of getting his house and signing up for school for the next few days. Boyd and Erika had finally recovered but were unsure of where to go next. They left Derek and were out of the pack, but Naruto assured them they could stick with him if they wanted. When Naruto moved into his house, they followed and stayed with him. While they stayed with him, they told them their stories and about the world that he didn't find in the library. He quickly became versed in all things werewolf and many other supernatural creatures. Boyd could have gone back to his mom, but the world he was in now, he didn't want to get her involved with this, or heaven forbid she got hurt because of it. His mom was the one thing in his life that he could call precious to himself, and he would do anything to keep her safe. So he would have to stick with Naruto. Erika's parents were more or less unbothered by her absence when she left with Derek, so she doubted they would care now. Besides, Naruto looked like someone she could trust or at least depend on to protect her. The young betas both were slightly concerned about Isaac. While they on some level felt bad about leaving him, he made his choice about staying to fight. They really would rather not. It took Naruto a few days to convince them to return to school with him. They knew they'd have another run-in with the Alphas, but they knew as Omegas now, there was little chance they had against them. When this avoidance became known to Naruto, he already had a plan in mind. Oh, them? Don't worry, you'll be way stronger than you were that night, maybe even be able to hold your own against them. Naruto reassured them while his clones installed a TV to the wall and placed the couch down. What how? Boyd asked, disbelief clear in his face. Yeah, if you didn't notice, they kind of have us outclassed, they're stronger, faster, more animal, Erika began listing before. Lacking in focus, drive, or actual skill. Naruto interrupted, regardless, I'll train you guys to not rely solely on instincts. What? Was the only intelligent reply they could come up with. Think on it, in order for them to get that way, they had to become better than their predecessors, right? Naruto questioned them, getting nods in return. Then all we have to do is train you to fight better or at least smarter than them. Naruto said, walking towards the center mat in the room. How are you? Boyd began to say, only to look over and immediately catch on. Come at me, Naruto said simply. From there on, their training began. Flashback end. As Naruto reminisced, grinning, across town that same night before school, two teens sat in a tattoo parlor, Scott McCall and his best friend, Styles Stilinski. Scott was in the chair waiting for the artist to get ready while Styles was checking out the scenery, flipping through a book of designs and pictures before stopping on one he found. Scott was a handsome young man in high school, brown eyes and dark short hair. He kept an athletic build, needed for his favorite sport, lacrosse. He could only be described as being calm, smart and good-hearted, always risking everything to save his friends. Recently, now that Gerard was gone, Jackson healed from his Kanama affliction, and even Allison leaving while it hurt, he was ready for the change his life was going into. He worked this whole summer, even managed to get himself a neon green dirt bike he was proud to have, and was planning to have a completely different year than before. Styles was a lanky kid. Not as built as Scott, but not skin and bone either. He had his haircut similar to Scott's, and where his best friend had his wolf powers, Styles could always rely on his mind and detective skills. Being the sheriff's son did wonders for that. Styles could probably be considered Scott's only friend most of their lives, the one constant he could depend on, with a spastic reputation that precedes him. When Scott jumped to co-captain, Styles was there, on the bench, cheering him on. He became a main reason why Scott never lost himself to his wolf side and ripped someone's throat out. Mostly because Styles did the research and worked just as hard as Scott to keep his friend safe. Boy, it's a good thing you drew me a picture, the tattoo artist said, looking at the two crudely drawn bars on paper before turning his gaze to a slightly sheepish-looking Scott. Hey, Styles called while showing Scott the page he found in the design book with a smile. Scott, are you sure you don't want something like this? Scott looked up to see a page with a giant humanoid lizard, complete with forked tongue, tail, claws and a wicked grin. Scott could only stare at his friend with a blank look. Did the whole Kanama thing just fly out of his head? Too soon? Styles asked, wincing slightly before he nodded and put it back. Yeah, Scott chuckled lightly at his friend's antics, shaking his head before getting his mind ready for this tattoo. Styles has always been there for him through all his choices and trails. Sure, Styles was not getting a tattoo, but he was here for emotional support, so that meant a lot to Scott. But his questions, he could go without. I don't know, man, are you sure about this? Styles questioned while slightly pacing. I mean, these things are pretty permanent, you know? I'm not changing my mind. Scott simply while grinning. Okay, but why two bands? Styles asked, trying to understand why his friend would ever want to do this to himself. I just like it, Scott answered with a shrug. But don't you think your first tattoo should have some sort of meaning, you know, or something? Styles questioned. Two bands? That just seemed weird. Getting a tattoo means something. Scott answered resolutely. Styles still looked unconvinced, however. I don't think that's. He's right, tattooing goes back thousands of years. The Tahitian word, tatua, means to leave a mark, like a rite of passage. The tattoo artist said, inserting himself into the conversation. Yeah, see? He gets it, Scott points out to his friend, while Styles crosses his arms and narrows his eyes. He's covered in tattoos, Scott. He points out blankly, before looking towards the artist, literally. Okay, you ready? The artist asked Scott, before getting his needles out. Scott shifts slightly and nods, settling in. You ain't got any problems with needles, do you? Nope, came Scott's easy reply, smiling at the thought of how cool this tattoo would be. Needing no further prompting, the artist started the needles with a low buzz, causing Styles to voice his own concerns while watching resigned. I tend to be a little squeamish, so, only for the artist to continue as Styles looked on. It seemed like the room was spinning a little bit while he saw the artist work on his friend's arm. Oh man, Scott mumbled, feeling the needles pierce his flesh repeatedly, missing Styles's eyes roll back before he finally fell backwards, fainting. Walking back to Styles' car, Styles got something cold to put on his head where he fell, and Scott rubbed his bandaged arm. You okay? Styles asked as they got to the car. Kinda burns, Scott said while sitting down. Something wasn't right about this, it's like the burning was only getting worse by the second. Yes, you just had your skin stabbed about 100,000 times with a needle. Styles brought up like it was the simplest thing in the world while starting the car. Yeah, but I don't think it's supposed to feel like this, Scott insisted. It felt like his whole arm was on fire now, traveling down to his fingertips and up to his neck even, and it just kept getting worse with every passing second. He groaned in pain a little. This thing had to go. Oh God, Scott exclaimed with a jump, prodding the bandages. No, it's definitely not supposed to feel like this. Oh, I gotta take this thing off. Scott had finally had it. He began tearing at the bandages and unwrapping his tattoo, much to the dismay of Styles. No, 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 Scott. Styles said. He just knew if he had to see it again he'd definitely pass out again. Oh, Scott, please stop. Both were in for a surprise, however, as once Scott removed the bandage, the newly made tattoo began to fade, sinking back into his skin while Scott looked on helplessly. Oh, no, 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 no. Scott muttered repeatedly while Styles watched on, fascination overriding his squeamish nature. Within seconds, the tattoo completely disappeared. Scott looked on, shocked. Did his mark of individuality and personal gift to himself just get washed away? By wolf power? It healed, Scott said, dejectedly. Ah, thank God, Styles's voice broke his train of thought. I hated it. He confessed before Scott looked back at him, annoyed and a little hurt. How could he not see how awesome it was? Sorry, Styles apologized somewhat meekly when he saw the look on Scott's face, before they started off the car and drove off. No use going back, Scott didn't have the money and it would be too suspicious, so looking out the window of his friend's Jeep, Scott resigned himself to his fate. His mark and money just flew out the window, just great. Winding up on an open road in the middle of the night, the boys were on a 4-lane road, with no other traffic, only the moon and their headlights as illumination. As they drove, in the only car on the road ahead of them by a mile was Allison and Lydia. Allison, Scott's first love, and Lydia, Styles' not-so-secret crush. It is not a double date. It is a group thing, Lydia said while driving, trying to convince her friend to come out with her and have some fun. Do they know it's a group thing? Allison questioned. Lydia, while a good friend, has had her moments of setting others up. Cuz, I told you I'm not ready to get back out there. You were in France and you didn't do any dating, Lydia asked. For 4 months? The sheer stupidity of this situation was staggering. Did you? Allison asked, flipping the tables on her. I mean, after Jay. Do not say his name, Lydia said with finality, looking over to her before returning her gaze to the road. Is he okay? Allison asked after waiting. I mean, did everything work out? Sure, he could be a jerk, but Jackson was still their friend, sort of. And after the whole turning into a kanama and attacking, almost killing all of them, he was able to apologize to them in his own way. He was being controlled and did try to protect them, after all, something Allison could relate to, something she could silently admit to. True, they did have to stab and kill him, but he came back as a werewolf after completely reconciling with Lydia and his identity issues. So it was still a win for them, right? Well, doctors looked like total idiots when he showed up alive, Lydia admitted with no small amount of mirth, but everybody got over it, and yes. Derek taught him the werewolf 101, she concluded before Allison could ask. Like how not to kill people randomly during a full moon. Lydia muttered with a smirk while Allison looked on in amusement. So you talked to him? Allison asked and Lydia sucked in a sharp breath. Not since he left for London, Lydia admitted. You mean, since his dad moved him? Allison supplied with Lydia waving her off. Whatever, he left. And seriously? An American werewolf in London? Like that's not going to be a disaster. Lydia said while shaking her head before focusing back on the road. So you're totally over him? Allison questioned. Would I be going on a double date if I wasn't? Lydia bit back heatedly as Allison grinned off to the side, allowing a giggle to pass. She was so not over him. She wanted a distraction and she just admitted to it being a date. Allison had her and she knew it. Yes, it is a double date. Lydia finally admitted before trying to defend it, it's not an orgy. Allison could only laugh at her friend's crassness and insane antics before looking out the window. She was kind of in it now. You'll live, Lydia said before turning back to the road with a small smile. Stopping at the red light ahead, Scott and Styles came up beside them, both oblivious to the other as they were caught in their own conversation. No, we gave each other a break this summer, no texts, no calls. Scott said, explaining the whole Allison situation. So how do you know she won't be back at school then? Styles asked before looking to Scott while they were at this red light, only to see something really curious. Allison, literally Allison Argent, just sitting in a car not even 5 feet from them. Lydia Martin's car to boot. What luck, huh? Well, after everything that's happened, I'm not sure she's coming back at all. Scott said, resigned. I think she is. Styles said matter-of-factly while Scott looked up him. How would he know? I'd say pretty definite. Styles said, alternating between him and out the window. Scott looked at him confused while Styles kept giving him signs. Like, 100%. Styles finally said before clearing his throat and nodding towards the window and pointing. Scott, finally getting the message, looked out the window and felt numerous emotions whirled into one, 3 being the top felt. He felt joy at finally seeing her since the summer ended, just knowing she was okay. The smile she wore only helped the feeling. His anchor to keep himself from giving into the bloodlust of a full moon was back. His first love would be in town with him. He saw her smiling in the car, having a great time it seemed. Next he felt heartache. He would always love Allison and she would always have a special place in his heart. But she did break up with him, even if he knew it was the right thing to do, it still hurt. Did she find someone else? Was she really over him that fast? Those words cut deep and almost made him want to look away. The next was fear for multiple reasons. Sure, he was scared she moved on and forgot all about him. Scared she would avoid him at every turn or come back a full-blooded hunter and shoot him for fun. And finally, he felt panic. Why panic? Because she turned her head and locked eyes with him. They were now looking right at each other, wide-eyed and mouths agape. Oh God, Allison said after looking at Scott for a few seconds. She and Scott turned their heads, both looking away in panic. What? Lydia asked, confusion written on her face until she looked up and saw Scott and Styles, and the realization was clear. Oh my God, Scott said as he tried his best to sink into the seat and disappear from their sights. Oh my God, Scott and Allison repeated together while Styles and Lydia were trying to hold in their laughter at their friends freaking out. I can't see him, not now. Allison whispered to Lydia while hiding her face with her hands. Lydia just sat silently like Styles. They were just at a red light. There were literally 100 other situations worth freaking out over. This just wasn't one of those situations for the two of them. Can we just drive please, Styles? Scott asked hurriedly. They had to get out of there, like, right now. Will you go? Just go. Allison practically begged as Lydia looked over to her friend like she was crazy. Scott, it's a red light. Styles pointed out to Scott. But the light, Lydia said to Allison, a very good reason in her book, but if her friend has a panic attack in her car, it'd be too much of a problem to deal with. Her freaking out was making Lydia want to freak out. I think we should talk to her. Styles said simply. He could break the ice, get Scott and Allison to talk again, and get to talk to the Lydia Martin hat trick. No, Scott said instantly. What part of no text, no calls didn't he get? It's supposed to be no contact. I just think we should say something, Styles reasoned while reaching over to let down the window. No. Styles, come on, Scott pleaded but was unheard as Styles reached the window to let it down. Oh my God, dude, no. Scott said frantically as Styles started letting the window down. Leaning his head back, Scott was more or less resigned to his fate. He closed his eyes ready for Styles to completely embarrass them both. Hey Tilda. Styles began to say, only for Lydia's car tires to screech as they took off down the road, the light, still red. Looking at the spot they were just at, Styles' smile slowly faded to a thoughtful nod. You know, they probably didn't see us, Styles offered while Scott kept looking ahead. Ahead of them, Lydia looked into her rearview mirrors to see Styles' Jeep still at the light. As Allison avoided eye contact the whole time. You alright? Lydia asked, only for Allison to nod her head. The light turned green and they boys began to drive forward, a few yards behind Lydia's car. Scott noticed and immediately got concerned again. What are you doing? Scott said harshly to Styles, who was now even more confused. What did he do this time? I'm driving, Styles answered, confused at his question. We're right behind them, Scott answered for his friend. Which wasn't really true in Styles' eyes. Literally over 20 cars could fit between the space of the two cars. Okay. Well, do you see any turns? Styles suggested. Not a bad point, as once again they were on a black road with no turns in sight. Only the car in front of them and few streetlights. I don't want it to look like we're following them, Scott explained while Styles turned his hands up in exasperation. Well, what do you want me to do about it? He questioned while Scott frantically tried to think of an answer. I don't know, anything, Scott finally said with more panic in his voice than he'd like to admit. This was so bad, if they didn't find a solution quick, Allison would think he was a stalker or something. Seeing no other options, Styles looked to his friend, exasperated before hitting the brakes suddenly, tires screeching before halting. Maybe if they stopped, the girls would continue going and leave them alone. Well, that theory was shot out of the sky with what happened next. Up ahead, looking back into the rearview mirror, Lydia and Allison started to feel nervous, or in some way bad they had simply ran away from them. Not even trying to talk to the boys. Shaking her head, Allison turned to her friend. Lydia, stop, Allison said, and Lydia complied. We need to go back and talk to them. Seeing the girls stop in front of them, Scott and Styles cocked their eyebrows and looked at each other for a second before looking forward again. The cars were stationary, neither moving forward or backwards. Luckily no one else was on this road and there were no incoming cars this time of night. They stopped too, Lydia pointed out while they looked back, noticing the distance between them had not changed despite them completely stopping. Why would they stop? Allison asked, while Lydia looked to her board, neither noticing the movement ahead of the car. It's Scott and Styles, Lydia pointed out, turning back to look at the boys. Do you really want to try and apply logic to those two? She questioned with a snort. Well, maybe we should go back, Allison began to suggest before a deer smashed through the front of Lydia's car, head going through the windshield. The girls screamed at the sudden sound and impact. Glass going everywhere as the deer went limp on the hood of the car, while stuck in the windshield. Seeing all this go down, Scott and Styles rushed out of the car, running to the girls who were just as eager to get out of Lydia's car. Are you okay? Scott asked while running to Allison as she backed away from the car. It just came out of nowhere, Lydia explained when Styles reached her. Are you hurt? Styles asked while Lydia kept going. It ran into us, she muttered. Scott was checking on Allison, steadying her, and Allison holding onto Scott's arms, slowly averting her eyes from the deer. Are you okay? He asked while Allison finally got her breath back. I'm okay, she said, locking eyes with him, both of them feeling better knowing one was okay and that the other cared. Well, I'm not okay, Lydia cried out, getting everyone's attention. I am totally freaking out. How the hell did it just run into us? She questioned hysterically. While Lydia had her moment, Scott walked around to the front of the car to look at the deer. Looking the animal over, Scott was slightly shocked both at its condition and wounds. I saw its eyes before it hit us, Lydia said, shaking. It was like it was crazy. No, it was scared, Scott corrected with a shake of his head, before placing his hand on a wound it had, feeling its fleeting emotions. Actually, terrified. Looking back toward the dark road the deer had come from, Scott knew whatever had hurt this deer, before the car did, obviously had it so scared it tried to kill itself rather than get caught. Wait. Across town in the Beacon Hills Hospital, Melissa McCall called out in shock, I know this one. Melissa was a beautiful young woman, with brown eyes, curly long brunette hair, and fair skin. Despite having a son, she successfully kept her model figure. Her eyes now set in worry as she looked at her son Scott's schoolmate and friend Isaac being wheeled in. She learned recently about her son and the supernatural world he was drawn into, Being held up with a tail around your throat by a lizard man will do that to you. Originally she was scared both for him and of him. She knew it broke his heart and it hurt her as well that she wouldn't even talk to him, but she loved her son more than any curse, so they talked it out and now they were closer than ever. But looking at Isik, those thoughts and memories took a back seat as she saw the boy around her son's age. He was sitting on that stretcher, propped on one elbow, claw marks, and blood everywhere. Only one question came to mind. Why isn't he healing? What happened, Isik? Melissa questioned in a whisper as Isik looked over at her. The girl, all right, she's worse, okay? Isik said as his head rocked back and forth. He wanted her to be okay before himself? He sounded concerned. Are you not healing? Melissa questioned. Werewolves like him should be healed by now, right? I will you just help her, please? Isik said with finality. She wasn't going to get anything from him while he was like this and her job was to help people. Okay, can you take him? She questioned one of the nurses. We gotta move him, Melissa. Came his response. Was everyone a smartass tonight? All right, take him, she said as an EMT came in and helped cart him off. Running to Isaac's would be savior. She needed answers right now. Hey, Melissa said, trying to gain the girl's attention. They must have drugged her to help with the pain. Find him, she muttered. I had to find him. What are you saying? Melissa questioned. None of this made sense. I had to tell him, she informed Melissa. Who? Melissa questioned while keeping pace with the cart. The Alpha, she muttered. Find the Alpha. Derek? What do you want with Derek Hale? Melissa questioned only to get a headshake in the negative. No, the girl refuted. That was unexpected. What? Melissa wasn't looking for Derek? Then who else? Okay, let's get her out of here. Before Melissa could ask more, the EMT took her to surgery to get emergency treatment while Melissa was stuck in the lobby. The girl, oblivious to Melissa's absence, continued explaining through her drug-induced haze. No, not Hale. She slurred, waving her hand around absently. McCall. Scott McCall. A hard thud echoed throughout a house as a body limply bounced off the ground before rolling to a stop. A groan tore its way through the air as Boyd slowly got to his knees, panting while Naruto was seen sitting on a box in the center of the training room. Damn it, Boyd wheezed out while Naruto looked on, watching his pupils struggle. Come on, Boyd, Erika called from her spot leaning against the wall on the other side of Naruto. We got this. Yeah, Boyd drawled, rising to his knees. Yes, that's the spirit, Naruto shouted, hopping off the box. With roars aimed at the blonde shinobi, Boyd and Erika rushed Naruto, throwing everything they had at him. When the training began, Naruto told them to come at him with intent to kill, but both of them soon learned even when attacking there was no way they would actually even get close to hurting him. After 4 hours of non-stop fighting, well, more like them flailing angrily and the blonde weaving through their attacks, they finally collapsed. Hence where they are now, still throwing punches, kicks and claws, but they were on fumes. Why are we doing this? Boyd asked between pants and throwing punches. Erika, who currently had her kick held by Naruto, tried to growl and swing at the blonde before he threw her into Boyd. Let me ask you, do you think those alphas could fight for this long? Naruto responded. Well, yeah, definitely, if not longer. Erika growled out bitterly. She didn't like to admit it, but those alphas were downright monsters. The only reason they lasted as they did against them before Naruto showed up was because the alphas were playing with them. They could have killed them at any moment they liked, and it enraged her to no end. I told you before, they started out as betas, some even omegas before they became alphas, but they had to get to the level where they were stronger, faster, and better than the previous alpha, right? Naruto filled them in with Boyd and Erika nodding while catching their breaths. So, that's what we're doing? Erika asked, earning a nod in response. For what I have to tech you, we're gonna have to work on your stamina first. Naruto said, crossing his arms as the two betas stood back up, ready for the next round. Then let's go, Erika shouted, gaining her second wind before she and Boyd charged. That's the spirit, Naruto yelled before charging at the two betas. Coming back from his flashback, Naruto was on his laptop, looking over his savings while his clones put the finishing touches on his house, putting away clothes while 3 clones dispersed after cleaning out some casinos and sending the money to his account. Ah, the wonders of shadow clones, Naruto thought to himself with a chuckle, getting ready for bed. He already had clones set up markers all over town so he could show up anywhere, whenever and wherever he wanted. For the sake of fitting in, plus with the money he gained from the casinos, Naruto decided to treat himself to a car, an orange and black Audi R8. Smiling to himself as it was dropped off to his house, Naruto closed his laptop and leaned back in his chair, deciding it was time to go to sleep. The next morning, an alarm went off in the McCall household before a ball bounced off the snooze button, silencing the device. A hand reached and grabbed the red and gray pull-up bar hanging off the door frame. Scott focused on his one-armed pull-ups while he finished reading Call of the Wild. Stacks of books could be seen on the floor next to Scott's feet as he slowly went through his reps. Turning to the last page, Scott got a message from his computer, prompting him to pause, drop to his feet and close the finished book onto one of the piles of books he kept. Making his way to the computer, Scott noticed the message was his word of the day that he signed up for. Ephemeral, lasting for a short time, transient, momentary. Scott recited and pondered as he walked away from the computer. He had to get ready. The word stuck with him and echoed when he paused to look at his arm where his tattoo should have been. He rubbed his arm and repeated the word to himself as he moved on, getting ready for the day. Across town, Allison sat on her bed, holding her arms close as Chris Argent, her father, walked in slowly. As hunters, the father-daughter pair had lost a lot in the past few months. First, she found out her Aunt Kate had burned down a house full of werewolves and people alike. Peter, the alpha at the time, killed her in front of Allison. Next, her mom, who she had an interesting relationship, died to uphold the hunter's creed. And finally, her grandfather used and manipulated her and her mother's memory to help him, only to have him betray and almost kill her. Chris was planning what to say on the way to his daughter's room, only to completely blank once he made it to the door. "You ready?" Chris asked, as Allison kept her gaze locked onto the wall. "Yeah," Allison answered absently while Chris slowly walked in. "You know you can wait, if you want," her father offered as he made his way over to her. "I know the first day can be rough." "Don't worry," Allison said, shaking her head and flashing him a smile. "Yeah?" Chris asked, standing in front of her. "Yeah," she said softly. She was ready for today, she knew it. "Or you could wait a week, if it would make you feel better," Chris jokingly offered with a lopsided grin. "I promised Lydia I would drive her, because her car is wrecked," Allison said, not acknowledging her father's joke and shaking out of her trance. "So, I should probably go." The elder Argent's smile dropped slightly, but he understood. She had been through too much. More than any other girl her age. Slowly, Chris offered his daughter his hand. At the same pace, Allison reached and accepted the hand. Before he pulled her into a tight hug, she eagerly returned. In another area of Beacon Hills, the Stilinski house was a little more lively. "Know how many vehicle collisions last year involved deer?" Stiles asked his father, who was standing in the doorway. Not waiting for an answer, he pulled up the website showing statistics. 247,000. Stiles read while the sheriff shook his head, both amazed and disturbed by his son's antics. "Oh God, please go to school." Sheriff Stilinski groaned. He loved his son to death, but he would be the first to admit, he could be a handful and he needed him in school to keep him out of trouble. Not that it helped, obviously. "But that's crossing the road," Stiles said, beginning a new search as this one was flawed. "This one last night came right down the middle." "Not gonna beg you," Stilinski said, moving behind his son, only for Stiles to continue searching. "Yeah, you couldn't, I'm impervious to your influence anyways," Stiles rebutted as he continued to scan the monitor. "You consider a bribe?" the sheriff offered. "Couldn't meet my price," Stiles pointed out. "Extortion?" the elder Stilinski pressed. "You got nothing on me," Stiles informed him matter-of-factly as he clicked on a new link. "Yeah," his dad groaned before moving and grabbing the chair Stiles was sitting on, slowly pulling it back. "Dad, what are you doing?" Stiles asked as he was slowly being peeled from the computer, whose keys he was abusing. "Dad," Stiles repeated, "what are you doing?" "Ah." Slowly tried to reach the keyboard to keep up his search as he was pulled further and further back before he finally fell forward out of the chair, smacking against the floor with a groan. Another jump to a certain strawberry blonde's household, and you could see Lydia Martin herself standing in front of her mirror, slowly applying it, dressed in a black floral designed dress. Admiring herself in the mirror, she noticed a nice leather jacket on the chest and the foot of her bed. Grabbing it, she tried it on. It was a bit big on her and she posed in front of the mirror before a voice was heard. "It looks good on you." came the compliment from a shirtless muscular boy on her bed under her blanket. His hands were folded behind the back of her head, showing off his six-pack, blonde hair and tattooed arms as Lydia's smile dropped slightly hearing his voice. Shrugging off the jacket, she turned to him as if contemplating his very existence in her room. "So, you think we could go on a real date sometime?" the pretty face asked, much to her chagrin. Lydia hummed disapprovingly, mostly to herself. "Well, can we have again?" he offered, grasping at straws while Lydia's frown changed at the prospect to a smirk. She chimed positively before moving on to finishing up her morning ritual. Watching her walk away, the pretty face could only stare, slightly hurt, but mostly confused at what just transpired. She never gave a straight answer, not once. Back with our two unlikely heroes, Scott had driven to school on his new dirt bike before parking in an empty spot. Brown eyes beamed with pride at the bike he bought for himself before looking next to him, seeing two identical black Bugatti motorcycles followed by a black and orange Audi R8. With a sigh and a shake of the head, Scott let the slight jealousy at the advantages some people had. Still, he had no problems with his bike and still loved it, so with a smile, he turned his bike off and headed inside the school where Styles was waiting. "You want to ask Derek for help?" Styles asked while he walked beside his friend. Scott and Styles were in the middle of trying to figure out how to get Scott's tattoo back in the visible spectrum while a few individuals watched them from a distance. Styles was suggesting they ask for Derek's advice. "Well, he has the Triskel tattooed on his back, so there has to be a way to do it without healing, right?" Scott asked rhetorically. Seriously, that money isn't coming back and he wanted something to show for it. "Okay. Yeah, but still, doesn't he have his hands sort of full?" Styles insisted while gesturing to Boyd and Erica's missing pictures. This caused Scott to sigh, as he was still concerned for them. He knew they left, but he wasn't sure if they made it to whatever safe place they were looking for. "Oh cool, we have pictures," a female voice chirped behind them, causing the two to jump, and in Styles' case, yelp. Behind Styles, leaning over his shoulder, was Erica, wearing a dazzling smile. "Erica?" Styles almost shouted before putting a fair amount of distance between them, hitting the wall in the process. "The one and only," the blonde replied cheekily while Scott's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here? I thought you left," he asked before another voice spoke up. "We did, but now we're back," Boyd's voice called from behind him, making Scott's eyes widen. "Okay, can you both stop that?" Styles exclaimed while holding his chest. "Seriously, werewolves? Sorry, man." Boyd apologized before noticing the papers. "They should take these down. They'll give my mom a heart attack." "Yeah, like the one you two gave me," Styles said as Erica closed some of the distance between them. "Oh, sorry Styles," Erica started while smirking at him a little too seductively for his comfort. "I can make it up to you if you'd like." And with that suggestive comment, Styles turned beet red and was stuck trying to form words while Scott talked to Boyd. "You said you were leaving. What happened to make you come back?" he asked, getting a nod from Boyd. "Trouble. Erica and I were lucky to make it out alive. But we need to talk, all of us," Boyd said, as Scott nodded, knowing what he meant. "Okay, when and where?" Scott asked while Erica moved away from a blushing and dazed Styles, next to Boyd. "Today, after school, meet at Derek's house," Boyd informed Scott before turning and walking away with Erica right behind him. "Do they seem different to you?" Scott asked, only to look back and sweat drop noticing Styles' flustered face. Reaching, Scott snapped his fingers in front of Styles' face, making him snap out of his trance. In Styles' defense, Scott left him at Erica's mercy, no telling what she told him, and Scott was sure he didn't want to know. "Huh, yay? Different? Oh yeah, the ninja trick was definitely new," Styles commented before hearing an angry voice. Looking into the room, they saw the new principal, sent to replace Gerard, pulling the old hunter's long sword out of the desk. Well, technically, it was the old principal that Allison's mom got forced, threatened out returning to his original position, but, semantics. "And what the hell is this?" the principal all but yelled to the secretary in exasperation. "Come on, let's go, go," Styles harshly whispered while pushing Scott down the hall to get as far away from that conversation as possible. "Freshmen, tons and tons of freshmen," Lydia said in a sing-songy tone as Allison put her books in her locker, gained a disturbed look. "You mean, fresh boys. Lydia, they're 14. Allison commented and pointed out with a scoff, causing Lydia to roll her eyes. "Oh well, some more mature than others," Lydia said, waving her off and continuing to scope out her new prey. "You know it's okay to be single. Focus on yourself for a little while, work on becoming a better person," Allison offered as she finished up at her locker and closed it before leaning on said lockers. Lydia giggled and shifted to the side to look into Allison's eyes. "Allison, I love you. So if we need to do that thing where we talk about and pretend like we're not actually talking about you, it's totally fine," Lydia affirmed, causing Allison to grin and shake her head. "Well played, Miss Martin, well played. But," Lydia said with a sigh before smacking a locker lightly, "I don't want a boyfriend. I want a distraction." The strawberry blonde finished while hungrily watching a new kid walk by. Lydia's gaze finally landed on two pairs of black boots with matching jeans tucked in, steadily walking towards their direction, in unison down the hall with their black helmets in their hands. Allison followed her friend's trail of vision to see what held her friend's attention for so long. They were dressed similarly, only difference being one with a blue shirt and the other wearing a button-up. This begged Allison's next question. "Brothers?" Allison asked. "Twins," Lydia replied, practically foaming. "Down girl," Allison playfully chided. A sudden chuckle to Allison's side almost made her jump before seeing the locker next to her open and the most vibrant blue eyes she had ever seen looking back at her. "I'm sorry, I never meant to eavesdrop. Your conversation was a little attention-grabbing," the blonde-haired boy explained with a chuckle. Getting a better look, Allison had to admit he was handsome, and despite her earlier words, she did blush upon first inspection. Spiky sun-kissed blonde hair, deep blue eyes, a handsome face and exotic whisker marks two-boot, hat-trick. "Oh no, you're fine," Allison reassured him while ignoring Lydia's comment. "Yes you are?" Lydia whispered breathlessly while eye-raping him. "I'm sorry, we must have been loud." Allison apologized while ignoring Lydia, who was shamelessly ogling him. "No, not at all. I'm Naruto, by the way," the newly named Naruto introduced with a smile while holding out his hand. "Fish cake?" Lydia asked while tilting her head, causing Naruto to sigh slightly in amusement and exasperation. "Common mistake, it really means maelstrom," Naruto informed them while placing his books under his arm. "Well, I am Allison and this is Lydia," Allison politely introduced while shaking his hand. "Charmed," Lydia chimed in with a flirty smile. "I'm sorry this is sudden, but I have a question I think you two can help me out with," Naruto told them. "Oh?" Lydia started, only for Allison to cut her off. "What's up?" Allison asked. Lydia's drive would land her in a world of trouble. "Could you, Scott, and the rest of your merry band meet at Derek Hale's house today after school?" the blonde boy next to her said cheerfully, causing her and Lydia to freeze in their tracks. How do you?" Lydia began to ask before being cut off. "Know about wolves and hunters? Erica and Boyd told me after I saved them. I'd love to stay and talk, however some of the new enemies have come to town, two of which are walking to me now," Naruto informed them while also noting absently. The two girls in front of him noticed the twins they were watching before staring intently at the back of the blonde boy's head with shocked expressions. Then it clicked with Alson. They could hear them. They were shocked he could detect them. They were wolves. With wide eyes, Allison turned to Lydia. "Okay, Naruto, we will pass that message along, but we really need to get to class." Not waiting for Lydia to respond, she dragged the protesting strawberry blonde to their next class before the bell could ring, or they got drawn into a supernatural fight. She didn't have her weapons, so this would be extremely one-sided. Still, she felt conflicted leaving Naruto like this, but when she looked back, his eyes told her he was still well in control. Turning around, Allison quickly sent a text to Scott, telling exactly what just happened. While Lydia huffed at missing out at the opportunity to hit on the cute guys. Breaking eye contact with Allison, Naruto turned around and leaned on his locker with a coy smirk on his face. "So, how can I help you gentlemen today?" Naruto asked with a smile, not quite matching his eyes. The result? Two pairs of growls and glowing red eyes, as the twins clearly did not take his tone lightly. Now fellas," Naruto chided with an easygoing smile as he held his hands up, "let's not do anything we'll regret. After all, I'm just full of hot air. We'll see what you're full of after I gut you," Aiden whispered harshly with claws at the ready. "Oh?" Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Forgot you first experience, huh?" Aiden almost charged for that slight at his first humiliation, only for Ethan to hold him back. Your leader wouldn't like you causing a scene here, would he? Naruto asked before spinning on his heels and walking to his first class while calling over his shoulder, "See y'all later guys. I'm going to enjoy killing him." Ethan growled as his brother, now calm, slowly began walking to their shared class. "Later bro, we know where they want to meet. We can kill him there," Aiden said with a grin. "Boss will want to know the alphas are hitting the school too," Naruto said, revealing himself to be a clone before sighing. "Then again, I think he sent me so he wouldn't have to go to school again." With that depressing afterthought, the clone created another, handed off the books, dispelled, and the replacement went to class, arriving as the bell rang. With the original, sensing his clone dispelling and receiving the information, a mischievous smirk appeared on his face. After he sweat-dropped at his clone's accurate guess as to why he sent a clone, he also knew he had clones all over the city. A clone here, a genjutsu there, and a henge to top it off, and voila. He has essentially a spy network all his own, with information coming from the hospital, to the bars, to the sheriff's office. Speaking of, Boyd and Erica mentioned Isaac, one of their fellow betas. Turns out, he was one of the two he saved, go figure. In any case, he and his would-be savior were in the hospital with some very curious officers waiting to question them. Talking with the two betas under his care, they explained how they did their best to keep the supernatural world away from regular people. After he received the rundown of what has happened in Beacon Hills, based on what they learned from Derek, Naruto could say without a doubt he was extremely excited to meet this Scott McCall. If for nothing else, then to hear his version of the story. He was extremely interested to hear the stories of an alpha, hunters, and a kanama. Shifting in his seat, Naruto began putting together his gear as he continued to recall the events he was told about. Before he decided to help, he wanted more information on what was happening. To do that, he had to talk to Isaac and whoever that was with him. With a hum escaping his throat, Naruto stood up and grabbed his shirt and strapped his gear on. He asked Granny Tsunade to make this gear for him when he made it back to the village after his training trip with Pervy Sage. She kept saying she forgot every time he brought it up, only for her to present it to him as a going-away gift, birthday present. Funny how he remembered crying when she gave it to him before his big trip and not. He couldn't help but grin all the wider for what she'd done for him. Thinking of his pseudo-mother figure, he finished suiting up and checked in the mirror for everything to be in place. He saw he now had an Anbu vest, over a black tank top on. That did nothing to hide his physique. Placing arm guards on his forearms, he slid his ninjutsu into the sheath across his back. While on his waist, his chakra blade was placed securely on his lower back horizontally as his secondary blade, directly above his shuriken pouch, that was attached to a utility belt. He wore his black Anbu pants taped into his black shinobi sandals. His kunai carrier stayed strapped to his leg as he reached over to grab his headband and mask. The mask itself was an orange and black Anbu mask. Specifically, it was a fox. He chuckled while remembering Kurama asking why he made the mask in the fox's likeness. "Because it's another sign of our friendship. We fight together, partner." Kurama's shocked expression only lasted for a few seconds before he shouted and cursed the blonde that quickly became his closest if only friend. Not that Kurama would ever admit it. "You ready, Kit?" Kurama asked through the mental link, snapping him from his thoughts. Tracing his thumb over the mask, Naruto placed it over his face before he responded. "Yeah." With that, Naruto shunshined away in a cloud of smoke. Breton was not having a good day. First, her job to rescue Isaac went completely foobar when two alphas caught her in the act of saving him, and pursued them. Then, after somehow escaping them, she passed out and woke up in a hospital, heavily sedated, and about 24 police officers outside her door waiting to ask her about all her equipment. The worst part was, she knew the cops were the least of her worries. Because those two last night were definitely part of the Alpha Pack, the rest would definitely be after her. She still had to get to Scott to tell him he was in danger. Long story short, she couldn't afford to be stuck here. So for the past few minutes, she's been pushing the drugs out of her IV, helping to sober up quicker while pretending to sleep. "Hey there," a voice called out. Did she mention she was pretending to be sedated so no one would be any the wiser? "You know it's rude to ignore someone when they're talking to you," the masculine voice said, sounding irritated. Letting a fake groan of a heavily medicated person sound out of her mouth. She'd hoped this person would get that she wasn't waking up, only to hear a scoff. Didn't this person know not to talk to someone who's under, or at least pretending to be, geez. And that was just pathetic. If you want to fake sleep, that's fine, I just wanted to help, seeing as you're in hot water with those alphas and the cops. Okay, that got her to open her eyes in shock, only for her eyebrows to shoot into her hairline at the state of dress the individual was in. A ninja, that's what was standing in front of her. Why, how did you know I was faking? Breden finally asked out of all the questions she had for this stranger. You're gonna have to try harder if you want to trick a ninja, you know. The stranger more teased than answered simply before pulling a chair to sit next to her bed. Oh, and don't worry. No one can hear or see what's going on in here. Far as they know, you're still winning the Oscar for best sleep performance. The masked blonde informed her much to her disbelief. What? How? Wait, don't answer that. Why are you here? She finally decided on the best question right now. Are you with the alphas? Her question was met with a laugh, a mirthful, good-humored laugh. Didn't stop her from getting offended, though. When he finally calmed down, he noted her agitated face and held his hands in a placating manner before speaking. I apologize, I didn't mean to offend, but me? Running with Deucalion? That's a riot. The ninja chortled before continuing, but no, I'm not with them. I'm here because I noticed they want you dead. I want to know why. Naruto informed her. They want me dead because of what I know. I know what Deucalion wants in Beacon Hills and I know who they're targeting. Breden answered. Okay, well, how about, I get you out of here then? Naruto offered her before she scoffed. Please, whoever you are, how are you gonna get me out of here? And why should I trust you? I don't even know your name. Breden pointed out, causing the masked ninja to chuckle before reaching up and removing his mask. A whisker face crinkled as Naruto flashed one of his foxy grins while giving a two-finger salute. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Now let's get you out of here. Naruto introduced before offering his hand, prompting her to give her name as well. Breden, the brown-haired beauty, answered cautiously while taking the IV out and standing to take his hand. Wait, we need to get Isik. Yes, I know. They're already after you too, and in the hospital. I'm going to get him now. But first, in a poof of smoke, Breden was seeing double. After blinking multiple times, she scanned her mind for any creature with that ability. Sadly, the search came up with 0. But before she could start the laundry list of questions, her savior got serious. You need to go, now, he said, and before Breden could say another word, the clone grabbed her. One yellow flash and Breden was safe from danger. Now for the other one, Naruto thought before placing his mask and the invisibility jutsu over himself and walking towards Isaac's room. He could feel the malicious intent of one of the alphas coming on his way to the room. Downside, she was going to beat him inside. Upside, he got to see Callie in a nurse outfit. Grinning slightly to himself, he erased his presence and walked into the room after Callie, but not before throwing up a slight genjutsu for passing employees and officers. Hello, Isik. Callie greeted an unsuspecting Isik Leahy who was nervously trying to find a way out of the hospital. Hi. Isik replied, shifting in his bed to get up. How are we feeling? She asked him while preparing the syringe. Seeing the needle, Isik began to nervously try to get out of the bed. Gee, good, actually I think I can probably. He was cut off by a hand gently but firmly grabbing his shoulder as his nurse prepped his needle. Okay, talking wasn't going to work. Looking up, he saw her inject the contents into his IV. She had black nail polish on her nails, but somehow, it worked for her. He was a teenage boy, sue him. What is that? Isik asked as Callie smiled. Oh, it's just an anesthetic, Callie answered with a sweet smile before turning to him. We don't want you getting in the way again. Hearing that, Isaac's eyes shot to her in panic. Oh, crab baskets? Count along with me, Isik, the female alpha instructed him. The drug began its assault on Isik way before she started counting. His strength leaving him in spades while he began leaning over the bed, he noticed the black claws on her feet. 1. Callie held up one clawed finger. Isik felt his head hit the pillow as he tried to muster the strength to get up, to fight back, to do anything. Unfortunately, the more he tried, the heavier his eyelids got. 2. Callie continued holding up a second finger. Isik struggled to stay conscious as Callie enjoyed watching every second of his futile struggle. Like watching a mouse try to escape the cat once the feline already has the rodent in its paws. 3. Before Isik lost consciousness, all he saw were her eyes. Red eyes of an alpha, even the sclera. Her black slitted pupils being the only exception. Fear and despair gripped Isaac's heart as he finally succumbed to darkness. With his head dropping, Callie smirked at her job well done before. "Well, hello, nurse." Naruto called to Callie while dismissing the jutsu and stepping into the light, causing her to jump in shock. She hadn't heard anything, that's never happened before, and that scared her. "You?" Callie asked in disbelief while her eyes roamed his form despite herself and mask he wore. "Me? You picking on a defenseless kid in the hospital now?" Naruto asked while taking a step forward. "Well, I'd hardly call him helpless, handsome. And what about you?" Callie asked sweetly while slowly stepping towards the blonde Jinchuriki, swaying her hips. "What about me?" Naruto asked, tilting his head as they stood face to face. "You're picking on a nurse simply doing her job. Whatever am I going to do with you?" The female alpha flirted while trailing a clawed finger up his arm lightly. Ignoring the slight shiver that went up his spine, Naruto smirked behind his mask as Callie's fingers moved to his chest. "I have a few ideas, long as you don't kill me," came his smooth reply as Callie's smile grew. "Oh, but where's the fun in that?" she retorted while reaching for the mask obscuring his face and began to lift it while leaning into him. "And here I thought you'd let me take you on that date. Or at least a drink before you go for second base." Naruto challenged her motions by gliding his fingers across her sides to pull her in. Almost letting her breath hitch, Callie remembered the mission she was sent on. She was supposed to grab Isaac, not flirt with this blonde hottie. But he was attractive, maybe she could give him a little gift before killing him. URG, why did she sign up with the alphas again? She could spend a little time getting to know him, right? "Please, second base?" Callie questioned with a sarcastic whisper, more than a little bite behind the words as she wrapped her arms around his neck. "I'd wear your narrow ass out." Don't get her wrong, he was fine. But running with Deucalion, she wholly believed that werewolves were far above any and all races, especially humans. She originally followed the pack as Deucalion being the leader as he was the strongest and they held similar values. Okay, so maybe her crush on Ennis helped, but that died and she really did believe what the demon wolf said. But in one night, this guy turned that theory on its head. He proved to be a match for anyone in their pack. She wasn't even sure Deucalion could take him given how easily he dispatched the other members. She had to admit, his power and authority he exuded made him more than a little attractive. Definite alpha material. Naruto was matching her smirk with his own, visible now that Callie had his mask in her hands behind his head. Is that a promise? Damn, this guy was good. Okay, she had a thing for strong, smooth-talking men, sue her. Ennis walked through the halls of the hospital searching for his target. His partner wanted to tag and bag Isaac, so he decided to get the girl. Moving to the room, he saw it was empty, not a trace of her there. Growling in frustration, he left to find Callie and see if she got her end of the mission complete. Enos tracked her to the room with Isaac. Reaching the door, he saw Isaac asleep, meaning it was time for him to extract. If she was still there, he could tell her about their missing target. "Callie, she's gone." Whatever else Ennis was going to whisper died in his throat at what he saw. Callie, pressing a ninja against the wall, kissing him with a passion. Seeing the blonde-haired shinobi that beat him before was enough to draw the rage out of Ennis. Callie, who was supposed to be second in command, grabbing fists full of blonde hair to pull that filthy human closer and moaning was the proverbial last straw to break this camel's back. "What the hell?" Ennis shouted, breaking the two of them up as they pulled their respective tongues out of each other's mouths to look at the sound that interrupted them. This seemed to snap Callie out of her trance as she stared wide-eyed at Ennis, who was practically vibrating with rage. Naruto looked more or less bored to the interruption before noticing who it was glaring daggers at him. "Hey, I remember you, I beat you up." Naruto chirped cheekily with a wave, adding to Ennis's growing rage. "What's up, penis?" "You." Ennis snarled, ignoring Naruto's failed attempt at his name. He would make that punk pay for that disrespect. With a growl he charged, rushing Naruto without care to the damage he would cause, of the lives he would take. Deucalion said to be covert and make sure no one knows they're there. Now, Ennis knew better than to question or go against Deucalion's orders, but damn it, this boy stole from him. He took his pride when he beat him, his status as an alpha, that he had been busting his chops to get back, and now he took his property. Everyone in his pack belonged to him in Ennis's eyes, especially Callie. So, to rectify this, he would rip this annoying blonde's throat out, Show Callie who she really wanted to be with before gaining the strength to go against Deucalion. With his mind set, Ennis continued his assault to rip the shinobi limb from limb. At least he would have, had Naruto not cast a genjutsu on him, freezing him in place before he could take his third step. Stay put for a while, Naruto said before looking to Callie, who had moved a few paces away from him with her hand to her lips. What did you do to him? Callie asked despite her blush. She was still concerned about her packmate. Nothing, he's just in a dream. I put him there so we can talk. The whiskered blonde informed her while she looked between him and her frozen teammate. Wow, got a lot of tricks, handsome. Callie complimented idly while trying to get herself back under control. You're not a bad guy, Callie. I know it, Naruto said simply, seemingly ignoring her words as he pushed himself off the wall and began to walk towards the dark-haired beauty. Callie took a step back as she readied her claws. And how do you know that? You don't know anything about me. Callie growled lightly while taking another step back. You're right. Okay, that answer threw her for a loop, enough to make her pause in her retreat. But I'd like to. I think you're fearless, smart, and dangerous. But I think somewhere in there, you want to do the right thing. Naruto pressed as Callie's past began to resurface. Please. The voice and face of her emissary overlapped Naruto's image, causing her eyes to widen before Naruto stood in front of her once more. Callie. A small childish voice resurfaced, causing her heart to ache even more. Everything I do for my species. What I do is right. Callie reassured herself. What choice did she have? Get hunted down and killed? Live in perpetual fear while watching loved ones get tortured and die? No, never again. Callie, you're hurting people. Innocent people. Naruto retorted while taking another step. What other choice do we have? We tried peace. They just used it as a chance to kill us. Callie waspishly snapped at the blonde. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Sure, he knew about hunters, but he wasn't sure about the history, and clearly, there was history. He only getting pieces. Unfortunately, you'll be too dead to hear the story. Callie said before swiping with her claws to his open throat, only for him to grab her wrist before she could make contact. Not keen on stopping, Callie dropped the mask and swung again with her free hand, only for a repeat of the first attempt. Callie knew as a werewolf, she already was stronger than any other human. Added to the fact her being an alpha, she shouldn't be easily held off. But the shinobi in front of her was moving her hands away from his once obscured face with what seemed like genuine ease. You know, that was really rude, Naruto childishly chided before turning serious. I really do want to hear the story, try to help if I can. Hearing the blonde's offer and using her senses to hear his heartbeat for sincerity, Callie felt a little of her strength leave her when she couldn't sense a lie. Why? Deep red eyes balefully stared into earnest blue. Because from what I've heard and seen, you guys were pushed to this. I believe there can be a way to peace. Let me help, he offered again. Callie's arm went slack as he let go of her wrist. She remembered her support turned opposition to Deucalion believing in peace. Her hand landed gently on his chest where his heart was. Even now she was feeling for any hint of a lie. To her utter shock, she found none. Damn, hot and sincere? And they said there are no good men. Think it over, and if you need me. Pulling out a Hiraishin kunai, he held it out to her. Throw this down, I'll be there in a flash. What if I use it to capture you? She questioned. People trusting her tended to end badly for them. Well, you could try to capture me, but you look like you could use a friend. Moreover, I guess I'll just have to trust you. Naruto pointed out, causing Callie's eyes to widen. How can you trust someone so easily? I tried to kill you. The female alpha pointed out, causing Naruto to smile fondly. You'd be surprised how many friends I have that's tried to kill me. With that cryptic response, they heard a groan and turned to see Isaac, still sedated. She completely forgot about that. Here she was, second in command of the Alpha Pack. A firm believer that werewolves were the superior race to all creatures, and then she turns around and makes out with a human? Sure, she was using it to get his guard down and kill him. Unfortunately, she didn't count on enjoying it so much, or Ennis walking in when he did. When he woke up and told the other she was soft on a human. Granted, an attractive, powerful human, that has taken out alphas with his bare hands, but still. If Deucalion found out, she'd be in for the fight of her life. He had her between a rock and a hard place, and not in the fun way. Seeing her wide eyes, Naruto let a soft chuckle echo from his throat before speaking. Don't suppose I could convince you to stop, could I? The blonde asked, prompting her to stop evaluating before turning to him. Sorry handsome, I still need to make sure no one knows about us. You're very naive to think you can change centuries worth of tradition and history. Callie said, her walls coming back up making Naruto shake his head. The way she talked reminded him of a certain Hyuga and a certain priestess, both of whose minds he had changed. Seemed like a lifetime ago. Well, I promised to bring peace to this world, the whiskered blonde stated, causing Callie to almost miss a step. You can't be serious, Callie started. You can't just make a childish, airheaded promise like that. She almost shouted, wondering why she was even holding this conversation with the blonde while she completely skipped his wording, focused on his promise. Seeing Naruto's confident grin, she knew why she was still talking to him. Because she wanted to believe in his promise, childish though it may seem. The years of having to live in fear as a beta. The constant threat of hunters waiting to shoot, stab and/or maim her. Losing so many friends and family to the hunters. To be told over and over that the only way to be safe was to ruthlessly attain power, by any means. Believing only the strong survived? Killing her alpha, who wanted nothing more than to use her. All her betas she killed, her emissary she butchered and left to die, in Deucalion, the one who advocated a peace movement, whose eyes used to shine with such hope, was twisted to this dark demon wolf she saw now. Were all these the wrong steps? Was there a better way to make a better world for her kind? All of them? In her heart she knew the answer, but all her life she'd known people to fear the unknown, they'd rather kill it. But this boy no, this man, was dead set on helping them. Shaking her head, Callie took a step back while her hair shadowed her eyes. How was her luck this bad? She was supposed to abduct some young wolves that had seen too much, instead, the blonde monster that humiliated the pack was here. So maybe she could use her female charms to get him to drop his guard, only for her to actually be interested in him, though she'd rather drop dead than admit it. Finally, he offered to help her and her kind, a human? Help her? Take him, and go. No other words needed. Naruto nodded and walked to Isaac's bed before turning to her. If you change your mind, let me know. I'm planning to meet and talk it out. Naruto said before an afterthought, oh, and tall, bald, and ugly won't remember anything he saw, so have fun with that. With wide eyes Callie rounded back towards the blonde only to catch the yellow flash signaling his leaving. She thought Ennis would snitch the first chance he go to Deucalion. Her distraction caused a lapse in judgment. Figuring finding a way to shut Ennis up was higher on the priority than Isaac. Damn that whisker-faced. URG. Ennis's voice snapped her out of her thoughts, putting the kunai behind her back. Callie, what happened? Naruto happened. Callie snapped, he took Isaac. Ennis, mistaking her anger for being upset the blonde took her target, snarled and headed towards the door. I'll find him. Ennis growled before Callie could say another word. Thanking God for Ennis's rather simple mind she quickly left, knowing there was no point in chasing the blonde. He could teleport so he could be anywhere. Leaving that thought, Callie needed to talk to Deucalion. Sure he would punish them for failing the mission, but if what this blonde said is true, they might be able to save all wolves, even the weak ones, assuming Deucalion would let them live. Looking at the kunai and mask she held, she groaned at the irony of bringing up talking things out with Deucalion of all people. Walking towards the exit, Callie had to report back to their leader. Scott drove into the hospital with his mind on class. Allison wanted to talk to him. The idea made his heart beat a little faster. Sure, she passed it along with a note and he was quick to write and note his approval. Their note conversation got cut short when their new teacher, Ms. Blake, called him outside. Folding up the note and discreetly placing it on her desk as he passed Scott couldn't stop the slight panic coursing through his head. Turns out his mom called him out of school. She said it was urgent, immediately drawing his focus. After assuring Ms. Blake his grades wouldn't slip, he used his new big word to leave her stunned. Feeling good about himself, the young Omega was off to the hospital, positive he was ready for anything coming his way. Making his way in, Scott immediately sought out his mom. He knew they hadn't talked much and he wanted to fix it, but until she was ready, he had to wait. Little did Scott know, after he left, the school experienced a stampede of the avian kind. Hey, Lydia, what is that? Is that from the accident? Styles, not too subtly whispered to a writing Lydia, gaining her slight irritation and attention. Seeing his attention on her arm, Lydia humored him. It was either that or Styles would continue to talk throughout the class. No, Prada bit me. The strawberry blonde responded, hoping to cut him off before one question became a million. Your dog? Styles pressed, more than a little shocked that the small adorable dog would bite their owner. No, my designer handbag. His crush corrected, effectively stumping Styles. Their bags could bite them? This was going to throw his theory all off course. Should he be suspicious of his book bag? Yes, my dog, Lydia confessed while shaking her head. He made messing with him too easy. Has he ever bitten you before? The theory was back on. Lydia shook her head in the negative while trying to go back to writing. However, okay, so what if it's the same thing as the deer? You know, like, how animals start acting weird right before an earthquake or something. Styles kept talking, so she put her pen down to face him. Meaning what? There's gonna be an earthquake? Or something? Lydia whispered back with slight condescension. The idea was crazy, but in Beacon Hills. Maybe it means something's coming. Something bad, Styles concluded. He didn't know what, but something was on its way. He just hoped they were ready for. Bang! A foreign object smacked against the window beside Lydia, causing all the students to jump and some to scream. Looking for the source, they found a blood splatter. Styles slowly stepped to examine it with two others looked down to see a small bird twitching on the ground outside, letting out a squawk before it ceased, dying. Bang! Another bird smacked into the window, creating another blood spot. All the students jumped back again. Styles, however, was more than ever convinced in his theory. Something was coming, scratch that, something was here. For now, the young Stilinski decided with a step back, maybe he should move from the window. Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence. He did not want to be near when it got to 3. Before he could take more than 2 steps back, he caught sight of something he never thought he'd see up close. Everybody get down, Styles called and ducked before all hell broke loose. Birds, lots and lots of birds, crashing into the window, causing it to break. The pheasants, unrestricted by the glass, swarmed the classroom. In a tornado of feathers and shadow, the birds smacked into walls and doors, killing themselves and attacking students, while Ms. Blake called out to the students that didn't hear Styles. Covering the cowering girl next to her, Ms. Blake called to the students. Get down, get down, Ms. Blake called over the squawking birds. Suddenly the birds seemingly gained some control over themselves. Like a hive mind washed over them. All birds landed on desks and the floor before with an invisible call. They flew back out the window they came from, leaving a tore-up classroom, distraught students, and one question on everyone's mind. What the foo, Mr. Stilinski? Ms. Blake cut him off. Back in the hospital, after being briefed by his mother about Isaac's condition, Scott was in the process of power walking down the hall looking for his friend. Rather, he would be, if he hadn't been stuck in the elevator with a blind man that needed help. First he asked for the young Omega to press the buttons for his floor. It was on his way to Isaac anyway, so it wasn't an inconvenience. However, the minute they made it to his floor, the man asked Scott if he could help him get by while placing a hand on his shoulder. Okay, what was he supposed to do? Leave a blind man to find his way around a hospital he, himself, could get lost in? With a silent sigh he helped the man to the room he needed to get to, at the slowest pace humanly possible. He was blind. Come on. Scott looked around aimlessly for Isaac's room before rushing back to the elevator. They must have moved him, Scott concluded before seeing a balding man aiming towards the elevator. The man was wheeling a patient whose face was hidden under a cloth into the elevator before pausing and slowly turning to look at Scott. Locking eyes, Scott got a familiar sense. It was like a tingle in the back of his skull whenever he was near another wolf. The man was tall, muscular, chiseled features, tan, and balding. Staring at him, the Omega could tell, this was another wolf, but not one he recognized. He was wheeling a patient, it could be Isaac, and with the smirk on the stranger's face, Isaac's fate wasn't looking very positive. Seeing him press the button with a smirk, Scott snarled and started to shift, getting his claws ready for a fight as he ran towards the elevator. Seeing the wolf bring out his claws, Scott knew this was going to be a difficult fight, but he had to save Isaac. With a final push, Scott jumped into the elevator just as it closed, coming to a slide in front of Ennis before hopping to his feet. Fully wolfed out, Scott's glowing amber eyes locked onto the burning crimsons of his foe with shock before determination filled them. Okay, so he was an alpha, no big, I got this. Scott thought before settling into a low crouch ready for his opponent. Punching forward, Scott launched a punch at the unknown Alpha's face, only for him to sway back. Trying not to hit Isaac, Scott tried to sidestep only to be grabbed by the Alpha and swung into the wall of the elevator, causing it to rock and move Isaac next to the buttons. Okay, let's get in this. Scott groaned while holding into the Alpha's wrist and pressing his feet to the wall and using it as a spring to kick the Alpha in the face. The kick connected, causing Ennis to lose his grip on Scott and recoil. Unfortunately, he grabbed Scott's ankle and with a growl, threw him into the opposite wall of the closed space. Scott gasped in pain and fell to the ground before getting back to his feet for the fight. With a roar, the Alpha swiped at Scott, barely missing as he ducked. Unfortunately, he ducked directly into the Alpha's waiting hand. "URK." Scott choked before he was slammed into the ceiling of the elevator. Growling louder, Ennis slammed the younger Beta into the ceiling again before holding him up by his throat while his red eyes glowed. Examining him, Ennis almost chuckled. This kid put up a fight. Hell, he still is if the punches to his arms are any indication. Still, he was much better than some of the others he's fought. Still, the boy was green. Even worse, he was a Beta. Did he really think he could win? "Do you know what you're up against?" he questioned the boy he was currently choking out. "I'm an Alpha," Ennis announced, watching with some satisfaction at the panic he could see hiding beneath Scott's eyes. Before it could escalate, the door opened and Scott lashed out with a desperate kick, nailing Ennis in his sternum, causing him to let go of the Beta and stumble back into someone's claws. With a roar and claws in his back, Ennis was effectively paralyzed before the mystery person spoke. "So am I." Derek smirked before throwing Ennis out of the elevator. Landing with a roll, Ennis shifted out of his wolf form and stopped in a heap, unconscious. Looking back, Derek stared at the panting Scott with an unreadable expression. Taking the time, Scott noticed Derek looking different. Not so much physically, as he still kept his short-cut hairstyle, it was more internal. While he used to have his face stuck in a perpetual frown, now he looked calm. Still, he had a noticeable beard and mustache beginning to grow in, wearing a dark blue long-sleeve shirt with the sleeves rolled up and blue faded jeans. Maybe after his vendetta with the hunter that killed his family, becoming an Alpha and beating a Kanema helped mellow him out. "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" came the question from the Alpha. "Scratch that, he's still a bit of a," Scott thought from his position on the floor with a huff. Grabbing the wall, Scott slowly began to get back up. "Derek, why are you here?" Scott asked despite knowing the answer. "Isaac went missing. I'm here to get him back," Derek said simply before turning and pressing the button to go to the ground floor. "Wait, why? What was he doing? And is he all right?" Scott asked, gesturing to Isaac in the chair. "That's not Isaac, Scott," Derek rebuffed without looking. "How do you know?" Scott asked while moving to the patient and removing the cloth, only to be more shocked. In the chair was a sedated patient, but it wasn't Isaac. Scott groaned before looking towards the Alpha that had yet to say anything. "So, what now?" Scott asked, only for Derek to glance in his direction. "I go find him." Why did he expect anything more? "Okay, so, I'll help," Scott announced, causing Derek to give him his full attention. "Not necessary, Scott, just go to school, be a kid." Derek refused, making Scott narrow his eyes. "But if we work together, we can." Before Scott could finish, the door opened and Derek walked out. "I got this, Scott," he called over his shoulder, but Scott was not ready to give up just yet. In a way, he sort of felt responsible for Isaac, like how a big brother has to watch his siblings. He may not be a part of Derek's pack, but he certainly wasn't leaving an innocent person to suffer or be killed if he could help it. "No, you don't," Scott called, walking after him. Walking around the woods, Naruto had to bite back a frown while thinking on what just happened. In this new world, he had access to his Sage mode, but while in Sage mode he was able to connect to the world and, in a sense, commune with nature. But he almost choked at the sheer pollution and degrading health of the earth. Humans in this world gurgle the planet, choking it. Despite this, it seemed nature was still putting up one hell of a fight, sadly, not one he saw ending in a victory. After asking Kurama, he began pumping small amounts of Kurama's chakra into the earth, bringing life back to the planet in a small way. From a recent update from one of his transformed shadow clones, Naruto knew with the amount of money he had acquired, he could buy lands and use them as both bases and areas untapped by human corrosion. I can't believe you still feel the need to ask, even with such a minuscule amount. Kurama grumbled from his mind. Not that his asking bothered him. Quite the opposite, it was very refreshing that his container would ask him for permission instead of taking it. Hey, you know me, Kurama. We're partners, so it seems only right I ask. Naruto said offhandedly to hear Kurama's snort. Before anything else, what will you do with those worthless mongrels? They're having too big an effect on this place. Kurama asked, diverting the conversation. Turns out, those alphas were turning nature on its head. Their very presence permeated malice and bloodlust so strong, it drove the surrounding wildlife into a frenzy, making them reckless, willing to go through any means to escape the suffocating feeling, even death. Their fear called out to the blonde sage as he meditated. Some animals going to lengths like suicide. This was something he couldn't let stand. While meditating at Mount Myoboku, he remembered while he meditated, the wildlife would gravitate towards him. Hatching an idea from it, the blonde Jinchuriki sat down in an isolated spot in the forest, falling into his meditation. After pulling natural energy from the world and supplementing it with Kurama's chakra, the blonde realized he was becoming a beacon, no pun intended, for all wildlife, seeking a safe place to hide from the unseen threat. How did he know that? Because when he opened his eyes, he was surrounded by deer, birds and beavers. Doing a double taking at the bear that was laying beside him, Naruto knew he couldn't just leave them there to be assaulted by the oppressive aura, so he created a clone to take over for him, so he could keep his sage training up, and protect the animals under oppression. If the information he got from his shadow clone at the school was anything to go off of, the animals needed it. Getting up, Naruto saw a coyote staring at him. How? Was there a zoo here he just didn't know about? Shaking the thought, Naruto began to walk away only to be followed by said coyote. Turning around and seeing the canine stop a few paces from him and continue to stare at him, Naruto began to sweat slightly. Okay, that's not weird or anything, he mumbled before Kurama's voice bellowed. Kit. With a flinch, Naruto held his head. Ow, damn it, what? Naruto thought back. Watching the coyote tilt its head at him made the blonde uncomfortable with speaking near it, even if it was simply thoughts. That is no ordinary coyote, Kurama said simply. Really? What gave it away? The following me? Or maybe the fact that it doesn't belong here? Naruto sarcastically asked, raising an eyebrow. Sure, Naruto could admit, he was never the smartest guy around, but even he knew desert animals should be in the desert. Boy, Kurama growled, leaving the threat hanging while Naruto rolled his eyes. Okay, how do you know? Naruto conceded before questioning, what made him the expert? Naruto began walking again. Smell, she's similar to those mutts, Kurama said, simply causing Naruto to miss a step and stumble. Is she? How do you why? Naruto spoke out, only for the fox in his head to slam a tail into the floor, gaining his attention. I know because I can feel her desperation. Fear for another. She needs your help, Kurama informed him. The negative emotion sensor is a bit more refined in Kurama's case. Naruto could sense any negative emotion and intent, but Kurama? He's been around long enough to detect and discern all types of emotions. That was a fact he rubbed in his container's nose and would continue to until he mastered it as well. Don't you mean, our help? The blonde questioned with a grin, only for Kurama to snort. Please, Kurama scoffed, you're the one that wants to be a hero, go help. I'm going to sleep. Fine, so grumpy for a throw rug. Naruto mumbled before cutting the connection. Looking back at the coyote, he noticed that she had moved closer, looking into his eyes before her eyes glowed a cold blue. Okay, so you need help? Naruto asked. To his slight surprise, she nodded. Okay, lead the way. Naruto grinned while the coyote nodded and turned before taking off, having Naruto follow after her. Following the coyote through the woods, Naruto kept up with ease, but his mind couldn't help but wander. What kind of coyote was this? How could he help? Naruto thought only werewolves existed, but knew that was an ignorant thought. For all he knew, vampires were real. Were ghosts real too? The thought of running into a ghost one day made Naruto shiver with more fear than he cared to mention. Sure, he could blow up cities and take down the most powerful beings and deities, but a ghost? Nothing to hit. Unfortunately for the Jinchuriki, ghosts can most certainly hit you. Or it could take your soul, drag you to the underworld. Shaking away the thoughts, Naruto noticed the coyote had stopped in front of a hole. It was big enough for him to squeeze through, so he knew it was her home, but the question remained. Why was he here? Hearing a type of whine coming from the canine, Naruto looked to see her nodding her head towards the hole. So she wanted him to go in. Not too good a sign, but okay. Stooping down, Naruto came face to face with a den. Well built, but there were things about it that didn't quite add up. Like the doll in the corner, or other numerous accessories around the space like decorations. Before he could look any further, a whimper brought his attention to a wolf. A young black wolf with a red bandana wrapped loosely around its neck, bleeding heavily, and if the whimpers were anything to go off of, in a lot of pain. Shocked, Naruto immediately ran to its side. Using medical ninjutsu he learned from Tsunade's scrolls, he made quick work of the injuries. All the while under the watchful eyes of the blue-eyed coyote. Kurama! Naruto yelled in his mind, making Kurama crack open an eye. What? He yelled back, hating to be interrupted from an amazing nap. Look at these marks, they look familiar to you? Naruto asked rhetorically, wondering why any werewolf would do this before remembering it's in their nature. Just look at Kurama. Yeah, like a human with claws, alphas. Kurama deduced, but you didn't wake me up for that. You're right, Naruto admitted, I do have a question that's been on my mind for a good minute. Kurama's silence was all the key he needed to continue with his question. How come these two are fully animals? Naruto asked, ignoring his partner's grumbles about stupid blondes. You woke me up for this? Kurama growled with narrowed eyes. Hear me out, what if they're stuck like that? And can't turn back? Naruto pondered, making Kurama groan. Back when he would try to take over Naruto's body, Kurama had a habit of having Naruto take some of his qualities. Both in the crouching, movement, form and bloodlust, much as he loathed to admit it, was eerily similar to what might be going on with the young mongrels. Still, Kurama would shave himself bald before he admitted it. Not that he didn't feel slightly bad about hurting his first and only friend, just, his pride wouldn't allow it. So taking a deep breath, his nine tails swaying behind him, Kurama asked the question he already knew the answer to. So you want to help them? Kurama concluded simply. Well, yeah. The blonde answered somewhat bashfully, hearing Kurama snort in his head before speaking. Of course you do. Okay, let's change them back. Kurama noted, shaking his head before grinning. Wait, just like that? Stunned by his partner's words, Naruto was expecting him to go more into detail. Just like that. He didn't. Okay. But how? The Jinchuriki prompted while the last of the young wolf's injuries began to close up. Put your hand on his or her head. Kurama instructed his friend. Listening to the crimson-eyed kitsune, Naruto noted he finished healing the damage, followed the instructions and turned to the coyote that led him here. He knew she could understand him given their prior interactions, but he had to be sure. Okay. The damage is healed, but he needs rest and a place to stay safe. I can offer it to you if you want. I can also turn you back human if you're stuck. Naruto offered while the canine continued to stare at him. He was hoping the minuscule amounts of nature energy he was pushing out would make him seem less threatening, but watching the coyote stare with an empty look in her eyes made him realize just how stupid looked talking to the coyote and expecting it to talk back. Sure, in his world, animals talking is normal and almost expected when he thought about toads. But here, there's a chance he had his expectations too high. After a minute it seemed, the coyote moved closer to him with its head lowered. Moving slowly as to not frighten her, Naruto stretched his hand out and pet her head before giving Kurama the signal. Before he could think, Naruto was flung into a dark void. Whoa, okay, where am I? Naruto asked, immediately fed up with the darkness surrounding him. Who's there? A female voice called out, bringing Naruto's attention to the unknown source before the void seemingly shifted. Instead of floating aimlessly, his feet were placed on solid ground. Where before in the darkness he was naked, here he was clothed. Naruto blinked and he was in the forest. Trees and grass surrounded him as the blonde took in the sights. Seeing as this was someone's mind, he couldn't help but be a little jealous that someone else's mindscape was a forest while he got a sewer. Hello? That same female voice called from behind him. Turning around, Naruto could feel the blush creeping to his face when he saw the naked girl standing in front of him. Long, slightly wild, dirty blonde hair was the first thing that stuck out to Naruto. It complemented her brown eyes and delicate brows, which were currently studying him with tentative curiosity. A cute nose trailed his eyes down to her full lips and supple neck and shoulders, draped with her hair. Her hair covered her, but it did nothing to hide her full C-cup and toned stomach leading down to her navel and… the carpet does match the drapes. Kurama absently noted. Averting his eyes, but unable to ignore his partner, Naruto conjured a robe to hand to the young lady while fighting down his blush. Hi, I'm Naruto. He started somewhat awkwardly before holding the robe out. Mind putting this on before anything else? Sure, the brown-eyed girl said before grabbing the robe and wrapping up. Getting the vibe she was a little too used to being nude, Naruto waited until she was done before turning back to face her. Right, like I said, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. And you are? The shinobi introduced himself with a soft smile, causing the girl to lose her guarded look slightly. Malia, she introduced herself before looking around. What happened? And where am I? Nice to meet you, Malia. And to answer your question, this is your mind. Naruto informed her, making her eyes widen. Wait, I'm human. Malia shouted in shock before breaking out into a large smile and tears in her eyes. Sweat dropping at her slightly scatterbrained assessment, Naruto couldn't help but question her as he approached. You sound happy, could you not change back whenever? His voice seemingly snapping her out of her excitement before she turned back to him, completely forgetting about the robe she wore. I don't remember much. I remember a full moon. Flashes and moments, Malia recounted as she unknowingly flashes the blonde Jinchuriki. Grabbing the belt of the robe, Naruto closed it and tied the knot while looking away. The blush on his face, however, proved the damage was already done. I have a friend, I think, he needs me. She told him with confusion before conviction, ignoring his fixing her clothes. What difference did it make to her? Well, whatever happened, I can change you and your friend back if you want. Naruto offered, causing Malia to smile beautifully and nod her head. Yes, please. My dad's probably still missing me, she chirped with an almost childish tone. Suddenly from behind, Naruto sensed danger rapidly approaching. Scooping Malia into his arms, he jumped to the side to see a horse-sized coyote land where he was standing a second ago. While landing, Naruto was able to look at his would-be attacker more closely. It looked similar to Malia's coyote form, only bigger, with blue eyes and black sclera. Where Malia's blue eyes had shown some higher form of reasoning, this canine was running on pure instinct. Malia's inner wolf coyote, Naruto concluded while the creature snarled at him, obviously wanting him away from her partner, Malia. Ready to go? Naruto asked Malia, who nodded, shocked to see the coyote yet feeling a connection. With a hand sign, Naruto and Malia began to glow and shoot into the sky, while the coyote howled after them. Opening his eyes, Naruto was greeted to Malia, kneeling next to him, naked. Shaking his head, Naruto turned away and used creation of all things to make another robe, before looking to the young black wolf laying down in front of him. Before he could move to the young one, Malia's eyes snapped open with her gasping eyes scanning the room before landing on our blonde hero. Without warning, Malia jumped at Naruto, wrapping her arms around him and pressing her body against him. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mali told him with tears in her eyes. Despite himself, Naruto couldn't help the slight blush that found its way to his face as he awkwardly patted her clad back. After calming a thankful Malia, Naruto handed her the robe, much to her confusion. She remembered wearing clothes and how she used to wear them, but, after all these years, she ran around the woods essentially naked. So it would take a while for her to feel the need to wear clothes again. With a muttered apology, Malia accepted the robe and put it on before turning her attention back to the black wolf laying before them. How will you get him out? Wait, how did you get me out? Malia questioned him rapidly, and, how did you get this robe? Okay, in order, I'll enter his mindscape like I did with you and I made the robe. Naruto answered, simply knowing it would only lead to more questions. Was this what I was like? Naruto thought, before hearing Kurama take a breath to answer, he adding, not an open question. Humph. Kurama huffed slightly. Tell you what, Naruto cut Malia off before she could ask, let me get him out, and I'll answer your questions. Okay. Malia conceded reluctantly before grinning, but you gotta take me with you. Biting back a groan, Naruto knew she wouldn't drop this, so with a nod Naruto placed his hand on the young wolf's head. Okay, place your hand on mine. Following his instructions, Malia felt her consciousness slip as she entered a dark void. She might have panicked if it weren't for the fact she could see Naruto and feel him holding her hand. The sense of security she got was amazing. Enough to grace a small blush on her face before she blinked and they were in the woods. "Wah, what is this?" Malia stuttered. "The mind of our mystery wolf." Naruto answered while looking around for said wolf. He didn't have to look far, as a black mass made itself known to them with a deep growl. Gaining the pair's attention, Naruto and Malia saw a wolf, around the same size as Malia's, seemingly laying down, but upon closer inspection, they saw a boy laying on its side with the wolf itself, wrapping its tail around him protectively. The boy was obviously still asleep while the wolf's yellow glowing eyes watched the intruders with an air of protectiveness for the boy wrapped in its embrace. Upon further inspection, the boy appeared to be in his preteens, maybe 11 to 12, of African American descent with short-cut dreadlocks stopping near his eyebrows in front and down to the base of his neck in the back. He was wearing tan cargo pants and a black button down the front shirt that blended in with the wolf's fur. Almost reading the intentions of the two blondes, the wolf tensed slightly before sniffing the air and turning his attention to Malia, who stiffened. Is that?" Malia began whispering to Naruto, who nodded. "Yep, he has an inner wolf. Seems it wants to protect him, sort of like with you." Naruto answered her before noting, "I think he remembers you, though." "Okay." Malia started warily, "So what does that mean now?" "Meaning it'll be better if you retrieve the kid." Naruto replied with an easy smile, only for it to grow when seeing her incredulous stare. "You can't be serious," she started before noting his growing smile with no move to step towards the wolf. "You wanted to come, right?" Naruto pointed out cheekily. With a sigh, Malia turned towards the wolf, who had been silently watching her the entire time, completely ignoring Naruto. The were-coyote began her slow trek to the child within the wolf's grasp as the canine stared. Once she was within 2 feet, she looked into the wolf's eyes, noting the slight tightening of its tail around the boy before talking. We just want to help," Malia corrected while earnestly staring into his eyes. "Please." While Naruto could say that from what he had seen of her, she wasn't one for words, but when she did speak, she meant what she said. Granted, she talked when she was curious, but who wouldn't be after being freed from a perpetual prison of your own body? Still, Naruto could see the wolf looking at her as if processing her presence and words. After a few tense minutes, the wolf seemingly decided and closed his eyes before nodding his head, and removing his tail from the boy, making a path for Malia to the boy. Moving slowly, the wolf licked the boy's cheek, stirring him, then set his head down while lazily watching Malia. With a small nod and smile, Malia watched as the boy's eyes slowly opened, revealing bright yellow before returning to a coal black. They blearily searched the open area. "URG, ow?" The kid groaned while shaking his head before looking to the girl in front of him. "Who are you? What happened?" "I dunno." She began, "I'm just as new to this as you are. But my name is Malia," only to be cut off. Wait, I know you." The kid chirped, sitting up with instantaneous energy almost unheard of. "You're the nice lady that helped me." What?" came Malia's intelligent response to the excited boy. "Yeah, you were the coyote that saved me and helped me, right?" He recalled with a grin, causing Malia's eyes to widen before looking unsure. "Oh, sorry, I think so, but I don't really remember much," Malia informed him before shifting to show Naruto behind her. "I was only able to become human because of him." "Really?" the boy asked before looking down, dejected. "I thought you just really liked your coyote form. I didn't know you were trapped." Hey, it's okay, nothing to worry about. I'm human now." Malia comforted him, placing her hand on his shoulder only for his head to shoot back up. Speaking of, before she could blink, the kid shot to his feet, running to Naruto and standing in front of him, staring as if sizing him up. The wolf seemingly watching with amusement dancing in its eyes.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.